Chapter 1170. Seeing that they were about to be exposed, Su Yu said, "So we have to be more careful, and we must not let a fourth person know." "Yes, don't worry, my mother supports us. As long as we don't make a big noise, she will help us cover it up," Sheng Yuanxin said. Regarding the investigation of this case, the Sheng deity did her best to help. Even with Su Yu and the Jing deity, she still secretly supported them. Hearing this, the Jing deity's doubts were dispelled. At this time, around the cavern world where the tombs of the gods were worshipped, a layer of light mixed with hundreds of divine powers gradually emerged, covering the entire world, forming a layer of enchantment. In this way, not to mention ordinary creatures, even the gods would not be able to open the enchantment without more than 20 gods working together to open it. At the same time, the gods of the heavens left one after another and did not stay. Su Yu, the Jing deity, and Sheng Yuanxin looked at each other and pretended to leave. Half a day later, they quietly came to the edge of the cavern world of the tombs of the gods. "I have been preparing for this day for a long time." The Jing deity licked his lips and took out a small, colorful flag, which was mixed with more than 20 kinds of God's power. It was the power of the gods that he had worked hard to collect. Although the power contained in it was weak, if it was used, it could sense the enchantment and open a small passage that was enough for 3 people to enter. After the preparation, the Jing deity activated the flag and successfully opened the passage, and the 3 of them entered. The movement was so subtle that it was almost undetectable, but it did not alarm any of the gods. After re-entering the tombs of the gods, Su Yu looked at the tombs and said, "Let's act separately. Sheng Yuanxin and I will go to the tombs of the Book deity and the Glaze Fairy deity respectively, and the Jing deity will be responsible for guarding." Hearing this, the Jing deity frowned. The original plan was not like this. If he was responsible for guarding, there would be no time to plunder the celestial source origin. Wouldn't it be a wasted trip? Su Yu quietly glanced at Sheng Yuanxin, and the Jing deity was relieved. As the daughter of the Sheng deity, presumably she did not want her act of stealing the celestial source origin to be watched by the Jing deity. "No problem. I'll be in charge of keeping watch. You two go ahead and search." The Jing deity understood Sheng Yuanxin's meaning and agreed readily. However, his eyes were looking around, and he secretly licked his lips. As long as he didn't go to the Glaze Fairy deity's family's tomb and didn't meet with Sheng Yuanxin, it wouldn't be a problem to plunder the godly source of any tomb. A trace of excitement appeared in his eyes. His plan of many years was finally going to succeed. Sheng Yuanxin was a little surprised. Why did they have to search for the Glaze Fairy deity's family's tomb? This was different from the plan. However, after thinking about it carefully, the Glaze Fairy deity's family was very suspicious. Since he had taken the risk to come here, he couldn't come here for nothing. Sheng Yuanxin nodded, "Sure." After saying that, she entered the tombs of the Glaze Fairy deity. Before entering, she glanced at Su Yu and said, "I'm warning you, except for collecting clues, you are not allowed to touch anything in the tombs. I am a captain of the Sinluo law enforcement team. I will not sit by and watch you go astray." Su Yu smiled. "Don't worry, I know what I'm doing." The 3 of them split up. Su Yu came to the tombs of the Book deity's family and said with a smile, "Come on, let me see how abundant the godly source of the Book deity's family is." In the previous riots of the remains of the Book deity's family, all the remains of the Book deity's family were shattered, including the will of the gods. Therefore, he could plunder the godly source of the gods without alerting anyone. After sneaking into the tombs, the tree god came out before Su Yu released the 9 jade spiritual pearl. Looking at the broken bones and the amazing godly source of the gods, the tree god's eyes widened. What a complete godly source of the gods. Su Yu sneered. Of course it was complete. The remains of the Book deities were buried together with the hundreds of deities. They were protected by the power of the deities and were not damaged at all. Naturally, they were complete. I only need 1 mass to restore me to the later stage of the prospective deity realm. 2 masses to restore me to my peak. 3 masses, there is no third mass. Suyu summoned the god Kylin and said, if you devour the godly source of the book deity, it should be enough for you to restore part of it. The god Kylin opened his mouth wide and said in horror, this is the forbidden area of the Great Eastern Alliance, the tombs of the deities. Boy, how did you sneak in here? Since he was rescued by Suyu, he had been in the world of the martial arts tower and had no idea about the outside world. Don't worry about that. You can replenish as much as you can, Suyu said. There were 5 complete masses of godly source of the gods here. 2 were for the book deity, 2 were for the god Kylin, and the last one was left after thinking for a while. Suyu said, since you have sensed it, come out. The last one is for you. Haha, boy, why are you so kind? The evil god's strange laughter came from between Suyu's eyebrows. However, it still came out on its own. With a flash of blood-red light, a drop of blood floated out. Then, it turned into a giant dog that was full of evil energy and appeared in front of them. It had the ability to leave the soul space on its own. As soon as it appeared, the faces of the tree deity and the god Kylin changed, revealing a look of horror. The evil god glanced at the 2 of them condescendingly. Hey, 2 lower deities, this is the first time we have met. Let me introduce myself. I am the divine emperor who kills the heavens and slaughters the earth. You can call me Lord Evil God. God Kylin, your mass of godly source of the gods is 1 inch bigger than mine. This is not fair. Tree deity, can you be a man with a conscience? You have picked the 2 most intense masses of godly source of the gods, and you are still thinking about mine? Ahem. I am the divine emperor who kills the heavens and slaughters the earth. I will kill the gods and the demons who obstruct me. The evil god coughed to attract the attention of the 2. I don't care. Anyway, yours is bigger than mine. If you don't give it to me, I will cry. It is very ungentlemanly to make an elegant and noble goddess cry, and you will be condemned by the deities. Huh. Then let the condemnation be more violent. You shameless deity who is developing in the opposite direction of elegance and nobility. Ahem. That I am the divine emperor who kills the heavens and slaughters the earth. F***CK. Damn, Kylin, you are about to die. Why do you need so many godly source of the gods? Make a will for me. Hurry up. It will be a waste to give it to you. Ahem. I am the divine emperor. Shameless rogue, you are greedy for the life-saving item of the Kylin. You are simply... Bang. You 2 bastards. I am the divine emperor. The tree deity and god Kylin looked at each other and asked, who is this idiot who keeps coughing? I don't know him. I don't know him either. Oh, then let's go home and sleep. Swoosh. Swoosh. The 2 great deities each took 2 masses of precious godly source of the gods and returned to the 9 jade, spiritual pearl, and the world of the martial arts tower, leaving the evil god in the wind. Hiss. 2 inferior deities who don't know what's good for them. The evil god grinned. If it was in its heyday, I would not care about them. So you said lightly, don't talk nonsense. Take this mass of godly source of the gods and refine it, and then leave. Huh. The evil god rolled his eyes and looked Suyu up and down. Are you really willing to let me go? It is very tiring for me to raise a nest of deities. You should learn to earn your own living. Suyu sighed. The evil god's face darkened. A nest? Do you think you are raising a dog? It seems that I am a dog. The evil god's face became serious again, and he said, are you in big trouble? Suyu sighed slightly in his heart. Apart from Yunyazi, the one who probably knew Suyu the best was this evil god, who was both an enemy and a friend. Yes, big trouble. If I am not careful, I will die and my soul will be destroyed. I can't control the final situation, Suyu said. When he left the tomb of the gods, an extremely dangerous battle awaited him. There were many deities involved, and the danger was unpredictable. So, you sent me away in advance, the evil god said lightly. The evil god said calmly. His huge body squatted down, and he snickered. After going through so many storms, are you still worried about the present? Suyu smiled bitterly. Only this time, I have no confidence. The evil god played with the god source origin and threw it back to Suyu. You can refine it yourself. Although the effect on prospective deities is weak, it is not a bad idea to increase your strength. Since the effect on me is weak, why waste it? Suyu shook his head and silently took out a book. It was the Psychic Divine book that he got from Qin Feichen. Because many martial arts were recorded in the book, a trace of spiritual wisdom was born in the book, and it could judge the flaws in the techniques. This thing was so precious that the family of the book deity had only accumulated 2 or 3 books in such a long time. Seeing that Suyu was determined, the evil god smiled and grabbed the god's source origin. In that case, let's say goodbye. Suyu looked at the book and did not look up. Well, goodbye. The evil god looked at Suyu and stopped talking. Finally, it turned into a sigh. Sometimes, don't force yourself too much. After saying that, it turned into a bloodlight and disappeared. Suyu put down the book, and there was a sense of emptiness in his heart. A faint, bitter smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Why would he want to force himself? In the face of a great enemy, Suyu swept away his thoughts and focused on reading the Psychic Divine book. After thinking for a long time, Suyu inserted the 9 Dragons Devil Subduing art into it. The Psychic Divine book immediately shook slightly. On the cover of the book, a mouth appeared, spitting out mechanical words. Mixed techniques. The first 8 levels are at the mythical level, and the last level is a deity-level technique from the basic chapter of the Holy Demon Summoning Technique of the Royal Family of the Demon World. Pitter-patter. Suyu's hand trembled, and he almost dropped the book on the ground. He had long felt that the last level of the 9 Dragons Devil-Subduing art was very strange. The first 8 levels were all about summoning demonic dragons condensed from demonic energy, but the last level summoned living creatures from the demon world. According to Suyu's control, the summoned creatures from the demon world were weak and strong. The weak ones were like demonic crows, and the strong ones were like the 9-headed demonic dragons. According to the strength of the bloodline of the gods and demons, the Holy Demon Summoning Technique can summon creatures of different strength. If it contains the bloodline of the gods and demons, this technique can be used to the extreme, summoning deity-level demons to descend to fight. The secret technique of the royal family of the demon world? Hearing this, Suyu's heart thumped. Chapter 1171. Apart from those who possess the bloodline of gods and devils, any other living beings who cultivate this technique will suffer a backlash from the technique and be devoured by the summoned devils. Their cultivation value is 0. Living beings that were not descendants of god fiends would not be acknowledged by the summoned beings when they cultivated. This also explained why the Buddha suffered a backlash when he cultivated to perfection. Then why can I? So you thought about it. He had obtained 3 drops of the blood of the gods and demons, which had been integrated into the divine 9-dragon cauldron. Finally, it had been integrated into Suyu's bloodline. Could this be the reason why he did not suffer from the backlash? If I have enough blood of the gods and demons, I should be able to use the sacred demon summoning technique without any worries, Suyu thought to himself. However, Suyu was not stupid enough to use this technique in the Great Eastern Alliance. This was the secret of the royal family of the demon dimension. If Suyu used it, it would be strange if he was not regarded as a demon. At that time, he would not be able to explain himself, and Qin Feichen and the others would not need to play any tricks to kill Suyu. I must not use this technique unless I have no other choice, Suyu thought to himself. Putting away the Psychic Divine book, Suyu quietly thought about countermeasures. What I need most is time. I don't know how the Ghost Prison's Great Emperor's task is going. If it is successful, maybe I can get out of danger this time. The Ghost Prison's Great Emperor had not appeared for a long time. He had gone somewhere to handle an extremely important matter. Originally, it was a way out that Suyu had prepared for himself. But now, it seemed like he had prepared it a little too late, and time was of the essence. Now, Qin Feichen must be complaining to the various deities about me killing Qin Kwa. If I go out without any preparation, I will definitely be killed by Qin Feichen and the relevant deities first, causing Suyu to lose the ability to defend himself. Su Yu looked at the tomb. It was a safe place for the time being. No one would have thought that Su Yu was in the tomb of the gods. In the Great Eastern Alliance, there was a moderate earthquake among the deities. Many deities received Qin Feichen's message and exposed Su Yu's killing of the law enforcers. If there was no evidence, they could not be bothered. Qin Ku was a member of the Qin family. Had Su Yu not used a knife to kill the Qin family members? However, Qin Feichen really had evidence, and it was irrefutable evidence. It was a light returning mirror, and within it, a brief moving image was clearly displayed. One person knocked Qin Ku to the ground and took away his soul. Who else could it be other than Su Yu? Combined with the secret news that Su Yu came from the Jojo Cavern world, it was almost certain that Su Yu was the murderer who killed the law enforcers. Even though some gods questioned why there was only this part and not the cause and effect, Qin Feichen used the excuse that he had not returned to the previous scenes as an excuse. Although the deities didn't want to punish Su Yu, they couldn't turn a blind eye to the evidence that Qin Feichen had. In desperation, many deities met up and summoned Su Yu to hear the news. In the end, to the great surprise of all the deities and Qin Feichen, Su Yu had disappeared. More accurately, it had disappeared. Whether it was the crane deity's family or the deity's regents, Su Yu's aura had disappeared. Did he know the news in advance and escape from the Great Eastern Alliance? Qin Feichen's expression remained unchanged. The glazed fairy deity also felt troubled. They were fully prepared to launch a fatal blow to Su Yu. Even the glazed fairy deity had been lurking in the crane deity's family for a long time. Once Su Yu's crime of killing a law enforcer was proven, she would immediately execute him to silence him. However, no one had expected Su Yu to go missing. This unexpected situation was beyond Qin Feichen and the glazed fairy deity's expectation. Strengthen the surveillance of the crane deity's family. Anyone who enters or leaves must be reported in detail and in time. The glazed fairy deity's face darkened. This time, she had bet the whole family. Failure was absolutely not allowed. If Su Yu escaped and never returned to the Great Eastern Alliance, it would be fine. However, if he came back suddenly one day and revealed the truth to the public, it would be a disaster for the book deity's family and the crane deity's family. The crane deity's family was also nervous. Brother Yang Tai, have you found out the whereabouts of our feather god? Hirushu was very polite and anxious to Yang Tai, who came to visit him. The news that the feather god had killed a law enforcer had been leaked to the crane deity's family by some deities. They asked Su Yu to escape as soon as possible. However, Su Yu disappeared directly. After Yang Tai learned about the situation, he secretly launched an intelligence network to search for Su Yu. However, it turned out that nothing was found. It seems Su Yu had disappeared from the Great Eastern Alliance out of thin air. My people checked all the Divine Bone ships that left the continent in the last 2 months. There was no record of the Feather God boarding the ships. Moreover, the Feather God never came back after leaving the Carnival of All Gods. Logically, if he got the news in advance, he would only be safe if he escaped from the Great Eastern Alliance. It is really puzzling that he disappeared in this way. Yang Tai sighed. In fact, as smart as Yang Tai was, he had already thought of a possible hiding place. There was only one place where Su Yu had never left the Great Eastern Alliance and couldn't be found by the deities. The cavern world of the tombs of all gods. That place was blocked by a powerful enchantment. Even the senses of the deities couldn't penetrate it. This was the only way to explain Su Yu's disappearance. However, Yang Tai wasn't going to tell anyone, not even the crane deity's family. Once the news was leaked, Su Yu would be killed or injured 100 times for breaking into the tombs of the gods, let alone the evidence of Qin Feichen's crime. After all, there were many celestial energy spheres in the tombs of the gods, which even the deities coveted. Hirushu said bitterly, no matter whether Su Yu escaped or not, it would be a devastating blow to the crane deity's family. Don't worry, Master He. I will send some experts from the All-Access family here to prevent the crane deity's family from harming the crane deity's family. At least before the feather god comes back, I will try my best to ensure the safety of the crane deity's family. Yang Tai said. Hirushu's eyes lit up. You mean the feather god will come back? Yang Tai said with a comforting smile. Do you think the feather god will just leave like this? Since he set foot in the Great Eastern Alliance, he had never suffered any losses. I hope so, Hirushu said uneasily. Yang Tai said goodbye to Suyu. After leaving the Crane deity's family, he said with a deep sigh, Suyu, this time you are facing a great challenge. Even if my father interceded for you, I am afraid it won't help. If you can't find a way, you can hide there for several years. When everything calms down, I will find a way to get you out of the Great Eastern Alliance secretly. From the initial competition to today's admiration, Yang Tai had a good impression of Suyu. It was a pity that such a person was killed by a villain like Qin Feichen. In fact, Yang Tai had no confidence that Suyu could survive this challenge. After all, Suyu's weakness had been caught. 2 months later, Suyu had disappeared for 4 months. In the God of Instruments cavern world, Wang Yinxian was scratching his ears and cheeks anxiously. Alas, what should I do? What should I do? How can I save Suyu? Even the top 9 gods don't have the power to pardon it, and my old man doesn't have the ability to do so. What worries me most is that we don't even know where he has gone. This is the most difficult thing to do. If he escapes from the Great Eastern Alliance, it will be fine. If he doesn't, we will be doomed. Wang Yinxian heard from the God of Instrument that Suyu was listed as a fugitive under the strong suggestion of the Glaze fairy deity, because they couldn't find Suyu for a long time. Any deity who found Suyu must capture him alive. Otherwise, he would be regarded as an accomplice. Therefore, no matter which cavern world Suyu showed up in, he would be found out immediately. According to the God of Instrument, they didn't want to arrest Suyu, but this was their limit. Not only did the Glaze fairy deity's family put pressure on the ultimate deity, but this matter was also heard by the Dakini. She said the rules couldn't be broken, so they had to issue the arrest order. How hateful! If he was here, the Great Eastern Alliance would be provoked again and again. However, the hypocrites of the Book deity's family forced Suyu into this situation. Wang Yinxian was full of hatred. The arrest order was announced to the world. From the deities to the descendants of the deities to the people in the streets, everyone was arguing about Suyu. Suyu, a rising deity who was favored by many deities, was wanted by the alliance of 100 deities because he killed a law enforcement officer in the past. Some people felt it was a pity. After all, Suyu was born in a poor family. It was a miracle that he could be recognized by the deities in such a short time. However, the deities were jealous of him. His mistake was exposed by the Book deity's family. In my opinion, the Book deity's family is really despicable. Tell me, the feather god is fine. First, he doesn't harm people, and second, he doesn't harm ordinary living beings. Step by step, he gains the recognition of the gods by relying on his intelligence and talents. Who did he offend? Why are the people of the Book deity's family so vicious that they want to kill the feather god? I've heard that during the carnival of all gods, the gods in the tombs of all gods will release their godly source essences to nourish the continent and bless the living beings. However, the Book deity's family hasn't released any godly source essences for the continent for 10 generations, which means hundreds of thousands of years. I also heard about this. Many descendants of deities said that the Book deity's family is not loyal to the Great Eastern Alliance. It is very likely that they are a traitor family. These shameless dogs, each of them is sanctimonious. They enjoy the peace of the Great Eastern Alliance and are worshipped by the people of the Great Eastern Alliance. However, they betray us and don't regard themselves as members of the Great Eastern Alliance. In this case, they should get out of here. Why are they still shamelessly staying in the Great Eastern Alliance? That's right. The Book deity's family was a bunch of animals worse than pigs and dogs. But I heard that it was the will of the Dakini, the king of the gods. She was broad-minded and loved the world. She believed that everything should be influenced by love. Maybe she thought that the family of the Book deity could be enlightened. Everyone felt aggrieved when they heard this, but there was nothing they could do. After all, it was Mother Voidwalker. No matter how displeasing her actions were, as living beings of the mortal world, they couldn't stop her. Bang! In a private room next door, Qin Feichen's face turned red, and he slammed the table angrily. Today, Lu Li and the descendants of the Glaze fairy deity's family were invited to drink and discuss Su Yu's whereabouts. As it turned out, before the wine was even warmed up, he heard the drinkers outside cursing the book deity's family. Qin Feichen was furious. What kind of world was this? The book deity's family had been destroyed by Su Yu. Almost all of his family members had been killed. Even their ancestral tombs had been smashed by Su Yu. It was the book deity's family that had suffered from Su Yu's devastation. Why was the book deity's family being blamed in the street rumors? Brother Qin, don't mind them. They're just a group of ordinary people. They have been dissatisfied with our deity's family for a long time. So what? They're just a group of ants being ruled by us. Let's discuss Su Yu's possible whereabouts. Qin Feichen suppressed his anger. Brother Qin, after almost half a year of investigation, we think Su Yu probably didn't escape from the Great Eastern Alliance, Lu Li said. Qin Feichen was surprised. Who are you? Is he hiding in the continent? Lu Li nodded. Yes. I secretly sent law enforcers to investigate the Divine Bone ships that entered and left the Great Eastern Alliance in the past half a year. There was no trace of Su Yu. So, we can infer that Su Yu is still in the Great Eastern Alliance. As one of the 6 law enforcers of the Law Enforcement Alliance, Lu Li could easily mobilize law enforcers to conduct secret investigations. Although the All-Access Chamber of Commerce tried to stop her and refused to cooperate with her, they were finally intimidated by the authority of the law enforcers. It took them 4 months to rule out the possibility that Su Yu had left the Great Eastern Alliance. Then where is he? Qin Feichen was suddenly nervous. If Su Yu found a deity, told the truth, and got the protection of that deity, Lu Li said, there is only one place, the Tomb of the Gods. He is very likely to be hiding in there. What? Not only Qin Feichen, but also the others were shocked. How could they hide in there? Let alone whether they have the ability to open the passage. Even if they do, the slightest movement of the enchantment will be enough to alert the deities. Lu Li said calmly, if there is a deity to help, it should not be difficult to open a passage. As for the movement of the enchantment, what if there is a more powerful deity outside the enchantment to cover for them? Hearing this, everyone gasped. Didn't it mean that Su Yu had planned to hide in the Tomb of the Gods a long time ago? However, Qin Feichen thought it was very possible, especially after he had a profound understanding of Su Yu's intelligence. Bang! Then what are you waiting for? Ask Uncle Lucien to guard there immediately. As soon as Su Yu appears, he will die without a burial place. Breaking into the Tomb of the Gods, humph, even if he is killed on the spot, no deity will dare to say a word for him. Lu Li smiled meaningfully. Don't worry, Father will not only go alone, but also prepared a big gift for Su Yu. Even if there is a deity to protect him, he will not survive. At the border of the Great Eastern Alliance, a warship broke through the Star River and hurried to the shore. 2 dust fairies, a man and a woman, landed in a flash. They were the Ghost Prison's Great Emperor and Jian Wuxing. In the Tomb of the Gods, Su Yu, who had been practicing silently for 4 months, suddenly lit up the jade pendant tied to his waist. Su Yu slowly opened his eyes, which were shining brightly. He breathed a sigh of relief. Is it finally going to start? The family of the book deity, the family of the glaze fairy deity, and the families who secretly helped me, will I be doomed eternally, or are you playing with fire? Standing up and shaking the dust off his body, Su Yu stepped out of the Tomb of the Gods with a fierce light in his eyes. A war that shocked the Great Eastern Alliance was about to begin. Chapter 1172. You're finally out. I thought you died inside. Sheng Yuanxin stood outside the Tomb of the Goddess Sin with her arms crossed. Su Yu asked nonchalantly, did you find any clues? You could say yes, but you could also say no. Sheng Yuanxin sighed. I found some clues. As early as the time of the 6th generation of the Glaze Fairy deity, the Glaze Fairy deity's family and the Book deity's family had been in close contact with each other for a major matter. Su Yu's gaze shifted. He had actually found a clue. After pondering for a moment, Su Yu said, when you said we'll handle important matters together, do you mean building the book deity's treasury? Yes. Sheng Yuanxi nodded. Su Yu said, if I'm not mistaken, the glazed fairy deity is protecting the book deity's treasury like that. It's obvious that she's wary of this item, unlike the other deities. It turns out that the glazed fairy deity's family also participated in the construction. So what does this have to do with this case? Shang Yuanxin was silent for a long time before she said, from the funerary objects of the previous deities of the glazed fairy deity, I accidentally found out that they didn't suddenly think of building this book deity's treasury, but Su Yu's eyes flickered with shrewd light. I was instructed by the deity behind the scenes. Sheng Yuanxin was shocked. Did you also find clues in the tomb of the book god? Su Yu shook his head and said, I didn't find any useful clues. Then how did you know? Sheng Yuanxin tilted her head in confusion. Su Yu said, I guessed it. It was very simple. How much pressure did it take to build such a taboo thing that could spy on the secrets of the gods and endanger the entire Great Eastern Alliance? Without the support of a powerful god, it would have been destroyed by the angry gods as soon as it was built. How could it have waited until today? Sheng Yuanxin patted the dust off her body and stared at Su Yu angrily. Why didn't you tell me earlier? I stayed in my grave for 2 months. But if I told you, would you believe me? Su Yu asked. Then, have you found out who the mastermind is? Sheng Yuanxin's expression turned serious and she nodded slightly. Yes, I have. Su Yu's heart shuddered slightly when he heard the unusual tone of his voice. It seemed like he had found an extraordinary person. It's the 4th-ranked Rakshasa deity family, Sheng Yuanxin said. Rakshasa deity? Of course, Su Yu knew that the deity who was rumored to be the most murderous among the 100 deities was a human. However, he cultivated the Rakshasa Tao. He was ferocious, and his battle prowess was ferocious. Among the 100 gods, he was ranked 7th. Regarding this deity, Su Yu had also obtained some unofficial information that wasn't recorded in the official history. The current Rakshasa god had been captured by the demonic god for 10 years. Later on, the Dakini had rescued her. Rumor has it that the Rakshasa deity gave birth to a son who was the combination of a demonic deity and a human deity. It was obvious what she had experienced in the devil world. After the birth of the hybrid of the demon and human god, its whereabouts were unknown. Since then, it had become a mystery. There were no records of it in any historical records. Su Yu squinted his eyes. From the words of the Central Prefecture's king before his death, Su Yu knew his mother was a human god. Rakshasa deity. It was the mother of the Central Prefecture's king. A baby born from the devil world. A family of gods that had been secretly holding the secrets of the gods for generations. If one still thought that the existence of the book deity's treasury was accidental and harmless, how naive would one be? The existence of the book deity's treasury was to contain the secrets of the gods, to make them surrender, or to find their fatal weaknesses. If all these secrets were to fall into the hands of the demons, how much combat power would the gods who had all their weaknesses be left with? The devil world is determined to destroy me. They have planted so many people in my Great Eastern Alliance. How is it a family of gods with high positions? Su Yu felt a chill down his spine. However, this strengthened Su Yu's determination. He had to carry out a bloodbath in the Great Eastern Alliance to wash away the terrible hidden dangers. Miss Yuanxin, if the Sheng deity finds out, what will she do? Su Yu asked. Sheng Yuanxin clenched her fists. Things had developed to this point, and it was more serious than she had expected. Not only great families like the glazed fairy deity and the book deity were involved, but there was also a hidden mastermind behind the scenes. The Rakshasa deity's family. I don't know. My mother can't make the decision on her own. She will definitely discuss it with the all-access merchant god and the Dakini. Only with the 3 great deities taking action at the same time can it be possible to uproot the 4th-ranked Rakshasa deity's family. It seemed that Sheng Yuanxin had also speculated that the Central Prefecture's king was the descendant of the missing human and demon deities, and the one controlling the rescue of Jojo was most likely this Rakshasa deity. Su Yu pondered for a long time and sighed. If the 3 deities take action, it will be easy, but I'm afraid we won't have a chance to report the situation to the three deities. What? Sheng Yuanxin followed Su Yu's gaze and looked outside the enchantment. Her expression changed slightly. As a prospective deity, she felt the presence of the deities. Moreover, it was the glaze fairy deity. It seems that our intentions have been detected by them. Su Yu sighed. Of course, he knew that the glaze fairy deity was coming for him. Sheng Yuanxin looked dignified and said in a low voice, "Sure enough, we have been swept into this deep pool of water." With a flip of her hand, a threaded stone appeared in Sheng Yuanxin's palm. "This was given to me by my mother before we left. If we are discovered, use this stone to teleport to other divine realms. We must not be discovered that we are in the cavern world of the tombs of the gods." I didn't expect this to save our lives. So he was not surprised. The Sheng deity allowed Sheng Yuanxin to enter, and she must have given him thousands of methods. "This is a part of my mother's body, and it contains the mighty divine power of the Sheng deity. It will be easy to break the enchantment and teleport us out of this place. However, after we leave this place, the three of us will have to escape separately. We need to seek support from the deities we are familiar with," Sheng Yuanxin said. The original body of the Sheng deity was a stone that absorbed the essence of the sun and the moon. It was called the Holy Stone. A part of her body contained unimaginable power. Su Yu nodded. Okay. Noticing the movement of the two of them, the Jing deity reluctantly walked out of the tomb of the gods and joined Su Yu and others. Of course, in front of Sheng Yuanxin, he naturally could not show a happy expression. Instead, he said, "We are surrounded, and there are many strong people outside." Sheng Yuanxin nodded. "Don't worry. My mother said that she would keep you safe. After we leave this place, we will act separately. Don't be caught by the people outside." The Jing deity naturally agreed. Activating the stone, the three of them were swept away by the ripples. The enchantment of the outside world was nothing, and they were directly teleported to another divine realm. The glaze fairy deity, who was waiting outside the cavern world, suddenly looked up at the sky, and her face changed slightly. "This is the breath of the Sheng deity. Why did she appear in the tombs of the gods?" However, the glaze fairy deity had no time to think about it, because in that breath, there was the breath of her target, Su Yu. Swish! The glaze fairy deity moved an entire divine realm in a flash, chasing after the breath of Su Yu and others. She sighed in her heart. After all, she had underestimated Su Yu. She did not catch him on the spot in the tombs of the gods, so she had lost the crime of punishing him. However, it made no difference. Su Yu was going to die now anyway. Swoosh! Su Yu and the other two teleported to the adjacent water world, and without saying anything, they immediately fled separately. Although the glaze fairy deity sensed the breath of Sheng Yuanxin and the Jing deity, she had no time to think and caught up with Su Yu in a flash. Appearing in front of Su Yu, the glaze fairy deity sneered. "We meet again, feathered deity." Su Yu just smiled, without any extra expression. The glaze fairy deity showed a playful expression. "Don't you want to ask why I am chasing you? And what are you going to do if I catch up with you?" Su Yu smiled lightly. "You are chasing me. Is it a courtship? Even if you catch up with me, I'm not going to agree to your courtship. Even if you are a god, I will not let go of my bottom line as a man." Ha ha! The glaze fairy deity was not angry, but laughed. At this time, you can still calmly tease the gods. In fact, if we were not on the opposite side, I would also like you like the other gods. Unfortunately, you have to die. Because I know the secret of your collusion with the demons, you expose me to the gods, and then I have no chance to defend myself before you assassinate me. The glaze fairy deity's smile suddenly disappeared. "You know all about it? Impossible. Did someone go to the cavern world of the tombs of the gods to inform Su Yu? Was it Sheng Yuanxin and the Jing deity? With your cunning schemes, I can guess what you're thinking even with my toes." Su Yu said indifferently. The glaze fairy deity was a little surprised. She knew that this person was smart, but she did not expect him to be so smart. Looking at Su Yu's calm expression, the glaze fairy deity felt a little uneasy, as if things were not under her control. "Humph! No matter where you get your calmness from, if you want to find the gods one by one to defend yourself and ask for their support, don't even think about it. So you showed a hint of sarcasm. Find the gods to defend themselves one by one? Sorry, I never thought of such a troublesome, dangerous, and inefficient way from the beginning. So you had no way of knowing how many gods had conspired with the glaze fairy deity, the book deity family, and the Rakshasa deity. If he happened to find one of them, wouldn't he be a lamb walking into a tiger's mouth? The glaze fairy deity's heart was filled with uneasiness. She could not guess Su Yu's intentions. Fortunately, Su Yu answered for her, his eyes shining with confidence. I want all the gods in the sky, all of them, to come to see me in person. What? Even the glaze fairy deity could not help but feel shocked. Was it possible for all the gods to come to see Su Yu on their own initiative? The uneasiness in her heart grew stronger. Staring at Su Yu, the glaze fairy deity felt more and more that they had neglected the most important thing. Su Yu had never been a person who could be controlled. Then I will make you disappear from the world now. The glaze fairy deity shouted coldly. Without any hesitation, she moved her mind. Suddenly, from Su Yu's body to his soul, there was a terrible shock, and he would be destroyed in the next moment. In her mind, Su Yu was like an ant on the ground. No matter how he resisted, it was futile. This difference between gods and mortals, Su Yu vividly experienced at this moment. Chapter 1173. The boundless green surrounding her body was like a holy radiance, which drove away the thoughts of destroying Su Yu. What are you doing? I haven't got my husband's property yet. If you kill him, what will happen to his property? At least give him some time to write a will for me, okay? The elegant and natural woman spoke with a completely different image. The glazed fairy deity's pupils shrank sharply. A new deity. Among the 100 deities, there was no tree goddess. The woman in front of her was the tree goddess who had never appeared before. Well, since you know I am a new deity, why don't you give me a red envelope as a gift? The tree goddess smiled and stretched out her small palm. The glazed fairy deity was shocked. No wonder Su Yu was not afraid. It turned out that he had found a deity somewhere. The strength of this deity was far above the Jing deity. This deity, Su Yu, is currently wanted by 100 deities of the Great Eastern Alliance. No matter what your relationship with him is, if you are willing to stop now, the alliance of 100 deities will not make things difficult for you. Please leave now, the glazed fairy deity said. The tree goddess didn't receive a gift, so she said fiercely, "Little devil, you're not willing to give me anything, but you want me to throw away the owner." Humph, am not that stupid. Owner. The glazed fairy deity grinned. What a deity's spiritual pet, without self-respect. Although she thought the tree goddess was crazy, she couldn't give up in the face of a great plan. If so, I am sorry. After saying that, she took the initiative to attack. Most of the fights between deities were fought with the divine path, which was invisible and untouchable. It was hidden in the invisible Great Way. Su Yu only felt dizzy, and the tree goddess and the glaze fairy deity disappeared in the sky at the same time. He didn't feel any fluctuations anymore. However, the extremely strong divine oppression told Su Yu that the two deities were fighting fiercely. After a while, with a bang, the glazed fairy deity showed up with golden blood at the corner of her mouth. She was still standing in the same place, as if she hadn't moved at all. In front of Su Yu, the elegant figure of the tree goddess appeared, but she was playing with a pink bra in her palm. She shook in her hand and said with a smile, "You are so old, but you are still wearing pink. TSK. The glazed fairy deity, who was on the other side of the river, blushed. She was both angry and embarrassed. Shameless. Su Yu glanced at the red undergarment and was speechless. Is the tree goddess so shameless even in a fight? Tearing off a woman's bra? However, the situation of the fight between the two sides was clear at a glance. The restored strength of the tree god actually firmly suppressed Lu Li. The glazed fairy deity was a powerful deity that ranked in the top 10. TSK. How dare you try to kill my husband with such meager strength? Let those two bastards hiding in the dark attack together. I'm going to strip you naked." The tree goddess glanced at her side coldly. The divine light swept across, and a large piece of emerald light suddenly flickered from the endless distance. Then, a towering giant tree almost covered the entire cavern world. A dense mass of leaves shot out from the tree, and two gods, both shocked and enraged, emerged from somewhere. Water god, stone god. Suyu revealed a calm smile at the corners of his mouth. It was as if everything was within his expectations, yet it was also as if he was a prey that had stepped into a trap. The two of them flew near the glazed fairy deity while sweeping away the terrifying leaves. They stood next to her and stared at the tree goddess with extreme vigilance. "Who the hell are you?" The glazed fairy deity's heart sank to the bottom. She thought the deity Suyu found was just so. She didn't expect the deity Suyu found was not a match for him at all. Based on her intuition, the strength of this tree goddess was enough to rank in the top 9 in the Great Eastern Alliance. The tree goddess threw the glazed fairy deity's bra to Suyu casually. "Take it. When you're lonely at night, you can use it to quench your thirst." Suyu was quite immune to her words. Hearing this, he couldn't help but twitch the corners of his mouth. For the tree goddess, the lower limit was something she could break through easily. Nobody could guess where her lower limit was. "Shameless," the glazed fairy deity said angrily. "Water god, stone god, this tree goddess is very weird. Let's attack her together and stall her. As for Suyu, someone will deal with him." The three deities attacked together, and their divine paths attacked the tree goddess suddenly. The tree goddess was not afraid at all. "Fine, I have just recovered, so I will exercise my body with you useless deities first." After being nailed to the throne for thousands of years, the tree goddess had been bored to death. All of a sudden, the four deities started to fight invisibly. Their divine power was more than twice as strong as before. Even Suyu, who was used to the divine power of deities, found it a little difficult to fight against them. Swoosh! Swoosh! At the same time, several figures attacked from afar. Law enforcer Lu Li, Qin Feichen, and a law enforcement team of about 100 people. As a law enforcer, it was not difficult for Lu Li to mobilize the law enforcement team to arrest wanted criminals. These 100 people were all trusted subordinates. Otherwise, she could mobilize at least hundreds of thousands of people. "Suyu, today, you will definitely die." Qin Feichen looked at Suyu with a hideous smile. However, Suyu didn't even look at him. For him, he didn't need to pay attention to a dead person. "Attack! Kill Suyu." Lu Li's order was not to capture him, but to kill him on the spot. The 100 law enforcers carried out the order without hesitation, even though they knew it was a violation of the 100 Deities Alliance Treaty. After all, the order issued by the deities was to explode, not to kill. Now, they were openly violating the order of the 100 deities. However, they obeyed Lu Li's order and rushed towards Suyu. Suyu was calm and unruffled. He took out the recording jade pendant and recorded the scene of Lu Li's order and the law enforcement team executing the order without hesitation. "Well, it doesn't matter even if I kill you publicly now." Suyu smiled lightly and took out the Marshall Tower world from his arms. One of the layers was opened, and suddenly, several extremely tyrannical auras of dust fairies let a large number of strong people flocked out. The strongest among them was only at the third realm of dust fairies, and the weakest was at the realm of all creations. Their individual strength was far from enough to fight against these 100 people, but there were thousands of them. They were the forces of the Marshall Tower world that Suyu had secretly cultivated with the resources of the Crane deity family. With the black and white dust fairies as the main force, his realm had improved by 1 or 2 levels. The rest of the region masters also focused on cultivating, and a large number of dust fairies emerged. As for the emergence of the all creations, there were countless. The creatures of Jojo grew up in the declining environment of Jojo for a long time. Suddenly, they received the powerful resources of the Great Eastern Alliance, and their strength skyrocketed. The sudden appearance of so many strong people made Lu Li and Qin Feichen raise their eyebrows. You have a portable cavern world? Luli was slightly surprised. As a descendant of the gods, it was not difficult to have one or two cavern worlds. As long as her father was willing to sacrifice a little celestial energy sphere, it was easy to create one. However, the cavern world in Suyu's hands did not look like a small cavern world. What answered them was the strong people of Jiuzhou, who fought bravely. Although the law enforcement team was strong, how could they fight against so many people? As soon as they fought, they were put down, and then there were signs of defeat. Fortunately, their quality was strong, and they quickly resisted the attack, and they were in a stalemate with the strong people of Jiuzhou. It seems that I need to take action. Luli snorted and took out a spear. Her delicate body trembled, and she teleported to stab. Suyu's face was calm. There was a strange laugh in the Marshall Tower world, and a huge black Kylan with a body size of 30 feet appeared from the Marshall Tower world. Looking at the Kylan, Luli's face changed drastically. The god of the Jiuzhou cavern world, God Kylan, there are quite a number of deities who remember me. An old fellow, Luli said. Aren't you only left with a trace of celestial energy sphere? How can you be so powerful? The current God Kylan's celestial energy sphere was so powerful that it was no less than an early-stage prospective deity. This was very different from the situation in the rumors. Suddenly, Luli thought of something and said in surprise, "Could it be that you took the celestial energy sphere in the tomb of the god of gods?" Hearing this, Qin Feichen was also shocked and immediately stared at Suyu, his eyes flashing fiercely. "Suyu, these celestial energy spheres, where did you get them from?" "Of course, I made use of waste, and I took out the celestial energy spheres of your ancestors." Suyu did not wait for him to finish asking, and admitted it very readily. Anyway, they were kept, so it was better to save a god who used to be one of the 100 gods. This could be considered a good deed for the ancestors of the book deity's family. Qin Feichen's lungs were about to explode with anger. These celestial energy spheres had never been released in the past generations, and it was not without any reason. It was a rule set by the book deities that if one day the current book deity's celestial energy sphere was damaged and there was an irreparable defect, he would go to the ancestral tomb to absorb the celestial energy sphere of his ancestors. For hundreds of thousands of years, several book deities had encountered similar situations, and they had to sneak into the tomb of the god of gods to absorb the celestial energy sphere of their ancestors. Therefore, out of the 10 tombs of the god of gods, only 5 had a complete celestial energy sphere because the other 5 had been consumed. However, these celestial energy spheres prepared for the book deities were all taken away by Suyu. Based on Suyu's character, he would not leave even the dregs for the book deity's family. "What? Come here," Suyu said calmly. Qin Feichen clenched his fists tightly, but he forced himself to calm down and did not rush over. Suyu easily defeated the son of the sword deity, so he was no match for Suyu at all. Soon, God Kylan and Luli began to fight. Both of them were early-stage prospective deities, but God Kylan was a real deity in the past. His experience, magical powers, and reaction time were far beyond that of a prospective deity who had only lived for 100 years. Obviously, Lu Li's cultivation and strength were not inferior to God Kylan's, but the spear in his hand could not touch God Kylan. The two of them fought back and forth, and God Kylan could only laugh strangely. Lu Li was getting more and more frightened, and he gradually fell into a disadvantageous position. At this time, a sad scream spread throughout the water god's cavern world. There was a golden light fluctuation in the sky, and even the clouds turned golden. At the same time, in the water god's cavern world, the mountains, rivers, and all the creatures were mourning the fall of a deity. A deity had fallen, and all the creatures were crying. Layers of golden rain fell from the endless sky, nourishing the mountains, the earth, the creatures, and the plants. So he was delighted to see this. The 9 jade spiritual pearl opened, crazily swallowing the golden rain falling from the sky. Chapter 1174. Lu Li, who was fighting, was horrified. What? A deity has fallen. A godly soul surrounded by divine light, without any God source origin, fled in a panic. In the end, before he could escape, he was pulled back by a green vine. Accompanied by the terrified scream of the divine soul, a woman's laughter that sent chills down one's spine rang out. Divine souls are very valuable. If you sell them on the black market, their value will be immeasurable. If you run away, where am I going to find another one? Lu Li, who was below, was terrified. Who was it? Which deity was so terrifying that he could easily kill the water god? She was distracted. God Kylan's eyes were so sharp that he immediately found a flaw. A pair of Kylan horns on the top of his head suddenly penetrated Lu Li's body and smashed it directly. Lu Li's soul was shocked. She was about to escape with a lump of prospective God source origin that had not yet been stabilized. As a result, God Kylan laughed and slammed his paw down, pressing him to the ground. Little Sue said that our Marshall Tower world lacks nothing but a few prospective deities. Your celestial source is very useful, so we can't let you run away. God Kylan opened his mouth and sucked. He swallowed Lu Li's soul along with the prospective God source origin and stored it in his stomach. An invisible roar came. How dare you! It was the Glaze Fairy deity who found that her daughter, the heir of the prospective god cultivation, had been captured by God Kylan. She was furious on the spot. TSK, you can't even concentrate in a group fight. The tree god snorted and the Glaze Fairy deity groaned. Suddenly, divine blood splashed, and hideous cracks appeared on the Glaze Fairy deity's divine body. Her divine body was almost smashed by the tree god. She escaped death, but the stone god was not so lucky. With a scream, he followed in the footsteps of the water god. Not only was his divine body destroyed, but even his soul was captured. In the cavern world of the stone god, all living things were crying. Divine blood rained down from the sky, cleansing the cavern world and nourishing billions of creatures. In the blink of an eye, two great deities had fallen. A huge wave quickly spread throughout the Great Eastern Alliance. When the divine wave of the water god's death spread, all the deities were shocked. The water god still had a long time before his death. Why did he suddenly die? When the divine wave of the stone god's death spread, all the deities were completely shocked and panicked. What happened? Why did two deities die one after another? Who did it? The expressions of the top 9 gods changed drastically, and they all turned into divine lights and rushed toward the source of the fluctuation. The gods had been peaceful for too long. The fall of 2 gods was like the fall of a meteorite, causing the entire lake to explode. All the gods were shaken. Apart from the invasion of the devil race, there had never been a situation where 2 deities fell abnormally. Something big must have happened, something extremely terrifying. The deities, the descendants of the deities, and some experts hidden in the Great Eastern Alliance were all alarmed. In front of a bamboo forest, Mo Tianxian looked at the sky, and her pretty eyes were filled with shock. 2 deities have fallen. Is this a sign that chaos is coming? Master of the 6 realms, should we set off for the Great Western Alliance? Mo Tianxian said respectfully to the hut. In the house, a hoarse voice that had gone through the vicissitudes of life came. No need. The Great Eastern Alliance still has a chance of survival. Mo Tianxuan's heart skipped a beat. Master of the 6 paths, are you referring to the destruction of the Book Deity's treasure house and the revival of the Great Eastern Alliance? No, the revival is not referring to this, but something else and someone else. Mo Tianxian kept repeating that something else and someone else. What did she mean? Who was she referring to? Anyway, the destruction of the Book Deity's treasure house is a great thing that is beneficial to the Great Eastern Alliance. Mo Tianxian returned to the Great Eastern Alliance and never came out again, but she was aware of the major events in the world. Even if she did not deliberately inquire about Su Yu's actions, she could still learn about them one by one. She was very pleased that the Book Deity's treasure house was destroyed. Is the Book Deity's treasure house really destroyed? No, it's fate. What? Mo Tianxian was shocked. The Book Deity's treasure house was not destroyed? How is that possible? In the world of the water god, The tree goddess's pretty face bloomed with joy. She had harvested 2 divine souls, which could be sold for a lot of money. Staring at the seriously injured glaze fairy deity in front of her, the tree goddess licked her lips. "Be good, stand still, and I will let the 3 of you accompany me, okay?" "Okay, my ass." The glaze fairy deity's face was gloomy. She finally knew where Suyu's calmness came from. Rather than saying that they were ambushing Suyu, it would be better to say that Suyu was ambushing her. He had killed 2 deities in a row, and his divine waves overwhelmed the entire Great Eastern Alliance. All the deities were bound to be alarmed. Now, there was no need for Suyu to ask for help from the deities one by one. All the deities on the continent would come to see him. At the thought of this, the glaze fairy deity felt a chill in her heart. The current situation was just as Suyu had said. He would not visit any deity, because he would let all the deities in the sky come to see him in person. As a deity, the glaze fairy deity stared at Suyu and felt a chill all over her body. How deep and how far did this person predict? Could they really put Suyu to death? She regretted agreeing to Qin Feichen's method of cutting off all means of retreat. She really regretted it. However, now that they had come this far, was there any room for retreat? Don't think you have one. Things haven't come to the last step yet. The glaze fairy deity wiped the golden blood from the corner of her mouth and crushed a jade pendant. The tree goddess's pretty eyes narrowed, and she charged at the glaze fairy deity like lightning. The glaze fairy deity, who was seriously injured, had no power to resist at all. She was about to be killed by the tree goddess, but at that moment, a terrible divine power suddenly descended. The crushed jade pendant transmitted space ripples, and from the ripples, a woman with a dark complexion and dressed in leather stepped out with her hands behind her back. It was a deity, a female deity, and it was the 4th most powerful deity, the Rakshasa deity. There were natural runes on her dark complexion, and her pupils were blood red. Her whole body exuded a tyrannical aura. At first glance, she really looked like a demon. The records of the Rakshasa clan and the demon clan being of the same origin were not without reason. At that moment, the tree goddess charged at her. The Rakshasa deity snorted coldly, and her dark palm, like lightning, touched the arm of the tree goddess. With a scream, the tree goddess retreated as if she had been electrocuted. Her right arm, which was touched, seemed to decay, gradually withered, and turned into ashes. The tree goddess snorted, and with a shake of her arm, it glowed with a strong vitality, and the decayed and withered arm grew again. The relaxed look on her face disappeared, and it was replaced by a dignified look. Her figure flashed and retreated in front of Suyu, and she said, "This person is very dangerous. You should retreat quickly, and I will stop her." "Escape? Where can you escape to?" The Rakshasa deity said slowly. Her tone was cold and tyrannical, and her whole body exuded an extremely dangerous aura. Seeing this, the glaze fairy deity felt a lot more at ease. He did not want to expose the Rakshasa deity, but things had developed to this point, and he had to ask the Rakshasa deity to come forward. With his help, he would definitely be able to clean up all of them before the god arrived. The Rakshasa deity's blood-red eyes gradually narrowed, and the next moment, she passed the tree goddess and appeared in front of Suyu. When the tree goddess reacted, the Rakshasa deity had already attacked Suyu, and a thought was directed at Suyu. The tree goddess was horrified. The Rakshasa deity was stronger than she had imagined, and she was too fast. She knew that things were not going well, and she desperately turned around to rescue him. But it was too late. Even the gods were in such a state, and Suyu had no time to react. He only had time to sense a tyrannical aura approaching, and he could not even react. Puff! Suyu's body and soul were destroyed, and nothing was left. Witnessing this scene with her own eyes, the glaze fairy deity breathed a sigh of relief. The most dangerous Suyu had finally been eliminated. Next, it would be best if the tree goddess could be eliminated, but if not, it would not affect the overall situation. On the contrary, she could also blame the fall of the 2 gods on Suyu. After all, he was in cahoots with this god. The tree goddess's eyes were wide open, and she was lost for a moment. She could not believe that Suyu had died just like that. In her memory, Suyu was an extremely intelligent guy who could predict everything in advance and prepare a backup plan in advance. Why did he not prepare a backup plan for the Rakshasa deity's appearance? The Rakshasa deity looked at the tree goddess lightly. "It's your turn." However, before the Rakshasa deity's voice trailed off, she suddenly looked back at the dregs left by Suyu on the ground. A small emerald dragon could be seen swimming among the remnants of Suyu's body. Then, there was a powerful will that could reverse the cycle of life and death. The emerald light wrapped around Suyu, and the remaining dregs of Suyu recondensed into Suyu's body. In the blink of an eye, he was resurrected. This scene stunned the Glaze fairy deity and the Rakshasa deity for a moment. It was not that there was no supernatural power of resurrection in the world. The phoenix's rebirth from the ashes was well known. However, Suyu's resurrection had never been heard of. Soon, the Rakshasa deity recovered and said lightly, "What's the use of resurrection? I'll just kill him again." After saying that, she moved her mind again and killed Suyu in an instant. However, before her mind could move, a five-colored divine mountain suddenly appeared in front of Suyu. It was the Five Elements Mountain. The Five Elements Mountain blocked in front of Suyu. No matter how strong the Rakshasa deity's mind was, it could not penetrate the Five Elements Mountain and was blocked. It's not an ordinary mountain rock," the Rakshasa deity said softly. "However, it can only delay your life." Swoosh! In an instant, the Rakshasa deity bypassed the Five Elements Mountain and teleported in front of Suyu, once again activating the god's mind. However, with such a long buffer, the tree goddess also reacted. She flew over in a flash, dissolved the Rakshasa deity's mind, and fought with the Rakshasa deity. However, in just 3 moves, the tree goddess vomited blood and retreated. On the other hand, the Rakshasa deity's eyes were full of indifference. With one hand behind her back, she only used one hand. "Forget it. I'll send both of you to hell at the same time." The Rakshasa deity put down her other hand and used both hands to kill one person each. The tree goddess laughed and said, "This is a big loss." However, she did not choose to escape, even though she had the ability to do so. "Die." The Rakshasa deity's expression was indifferent, and she attacked the 2 of them with killing intent. Seeing that the 2 of them were about to die, suddenly, a familiar evil energy suddenly appeared. From out of nowhere, a dog's paw, full of evil energy, emerged and blocked the attack aimed at Suyu. With 2 muffled sounds, the tree goddess retreated repeatedly, and the golden blood at the corner of her mouth thickened. The owner of the dog's paw was also shaken by the Rakshasa deity's palm. Chapter 1175. "You came back after all." Suyu smiled helplessly. He gave him a ball of celestial energy sphere to get out of the vortex as soon as possible. He didn't expect that he would stay behind Suyu and save him at the critical moment. The evil god said, "What are you talking about? What do you mean I came back? I was just lost and happened to run into you." Suyu smiled, and his heart was filled with gratitude. He waved his hand and took out the evil fatal energy halberd. "You can use it. The evil energy on it should be able to be used by you." The evil god took the halberd and raised his head. "Don't get me wrong. I just don't like this dark guy. I'll leave after I get rid of him." The evil god and the tree goddess attacked at the same time. In 4 months, the evil god refined the ball of celestial energy sphere. Judging from his aura, he should be far from returning to the realm of the gods. However, with the evil fatal energy halberd in his hand, he erupted with power no weaker than the tree goddess. Killing god Luo frowned, and his face became serious. He stared at the evil god and shouted, "Who are you?" He clearly didn't have the realm of the gods, but he felt a trace of fear. This feeling was unusual. The divine emperor who kills the heavens and slaughters the earth. The evil god laughed and rushed over with the evil fatal energy halberd in his paw. The tree goddess also gritted her teeth and fought side by side with the evil god. With the two of them working together, they managed to turn the tide of defeat to a large extent. Although they were still losing ground and couldn't defeat the Rakshasa deity, it seemed that they could hold on for a long time. They were in a state of anxiety. The glazed fairy deity flashed and teleported in front of Suyu. She shouted, "Die!" He could already feel that the gods were coming. Once they arrived, the glazed fairy deity would no longer have a chance to attack. Suyu drilled into the belly of the Five Elements mountain without hesitation. He entered the deepest part of the mountain and arrived in front of the barrier of the mortal fairy. The powerful power of 5 elements of the 5 elements mountain could isolate the will of the gods, so he could avoid being killed instantly. The glazed fairy deity was annoyed and followed closely into the belly of the mountain. The power of 5 elements here was no obstacle to a god like her. She almost teleported to the deepest part. Looking at the isolation barrier in front of her, the glazed fairy deity exclaimed softly, "What a powerful isolation barrier! It's not weaker than the barrier of the god's tomb." To his slight astonishment, Suyu had entered the other side of the barrier and drilled into the depths of the cave. "Death is nigh." The glazed fairy deity snorted in disdain. While the barrier in front of her was frozen by the power of time, she also teleported into it. In the blink of an eye, the glazed fairy deity had reached the deepest part of the dark zone. In the deepest part of the teleportation formation, there was a god-grade teleportation formation that had already stopped functioning. In the corner of the teleportation formation, there was a jade-like skeleton sitting cross-legged. The remains of the flood dragon demon god, the glazed fairy deity said in surprise. There was no flood dragon demon clan in the Great Eastern Alliance. Moreover, from the remnant aura on the corpse, this Fey immortal was not weak when it was alive. At the same time, he also noticed Suyu, who was standing in front of the flood dragon's remains and bowing respectfully. Begging a dead man when death is nigh? How ridiculous! The glazed fairy deity sneered. However, she suddenly remembered that during the carnival of all gods, Suyu also worshipped the tombs of the deities. As a result, many deities' wills jumped out of the tombs to protect Suyu and beat the deities' wills of the book deities family. Oh no! The glazed fairy deity's face changed as she sensed Suyu's intention. Suyu had already finished worshipping. Looking at the corpse in front of him, traces of Gang Daliai's bloodline power flashed in his body. Although it was an imitation, it was possible to deceive the deity's wills. "I hope I'm not wrong," Suyu said to himself. The glazed fairy deity teleported over and didn't intend to give Suyu any chance. Her palm, which contained divine power, was aimed at Suyu's back. This palm would definitely destroy both his soul and soul. Boom! Her palm didn't land and was caught by the white palm that had been dead for a long time. No matter how much divine power was wrapped in the palm of the glazed fairy deity, she couldn't break free from this white palm. From the eyes of the flood dragon's remains, 2 emerald flames were burning. Indistinctly, a deity's will that was about to dissipate was attached to the remains, controlling the remains to pinch the glazed fairy deity's arm. "Let go!" The glazed fairy deity yelled, and the divine power in her body surged into her arm like a torrent, trying to shake off the remains along with the deity's will. However, to her shock, the white skeletal palm that grabbed her just tightened its grip and subdued her divine power. How is this possible? The glazed fairy deity was horrified. Even though the remains of a deity were attached to the deity's will, they were dead after all. No matter how strong they couldn't be that strong. For example, the remains of the Dakini's ancestors were attached to the deity's will, but they were far from being strong enough to subdue him. In the glazed fairy deity's perception, these remains were no weaker than the Dakini herself. If that was the case, how powerful was this flood dragon's remains when it was alive? "Child," the pure white remains of the flood dragon stood up slowly, and a pair of emerald eyes gazed deeply at Suyu. The deities will emitted feelings of love, self-blame, and gratitude. Those were the feelings of a mother for her long-lost child. Suyu looked ashamed. Sure enough, this pure white remains of the flood dragon were Gang Daliai's mother. That was why you could imitate Gang Daliai's bloodline power and awaken the deities within the remains. Years ago, Elder Geo found a child with a flood dragon's head and a human body in the ruins of a transportation portal and raised him up. The ruins of the transportation portal led to the hinterland of the Five Elements Mountain. You had guessed that the identity of this remains might be Gang Daliai's relative, or even his mother. Judging from a situation at that time, this flood dragon demonic god could have taken Gang Daliai with it to escape. However, in the end, she only teleported Gang Daliai away, and she stayed behind to face something alone. Now, it seemed that she was facing the other flood dragon that had been suppressed at the foot of the mountain, the black-green water dragon. What kind of person would sacrifice herself for a newborn child? Apart from selfless motherly love, there was nothing else, right? I'm sorry, I'm not your child. Suyu activated the world of the Marshall Tower and summoned Gang Daliai there. There were 6 breaths left before the time freeze, which was enough time for the mother and son to meet again. Gang Daliai appeared with a puzzled look on his face. Brother Su, why did you summon me? He did not finish his sentence. Instead, he stared blankly at the flood dragon's skeleton in front of him and murmured, I feel like I've seen it somewhere before. It's such a familiar aura, but why can't I remember it? He scratched his head, puzzled. The flood dragon skeleton turned to look at Gang Daliai. The genuine feeling of blood connection caused the flood dragon skeleton to tremble slightly. Then, it reached out a bony claw to touch Gang Daliai's head. Gang Daliai thought about it for a moment and did not dodge. His intuition told him that the flood dragon skeleton in front of him had no ill intentions. When the palm touched his head, Gang Daliai's body trembled slightly, and his eyes became wet uncontrollably. Strange, why do I feel so familiar? Why am I crying? I didn't want to cry. Gang Daliai said strangely. That was a physical reaction, although Gang Daliai did not understand it. His body had already sensed it. Child. The flood dragon skeletons were called out in a low voice, trembling nonstop. In an instant, Gang Daliai's whole body trembled. It was as if some information had appeared in his mind. He opened his mouth wide and said in shock, You are my mother? She suddenly remembered where the familiar aura on her body had come from. It was the aura that had been imprinted in her soul when she was born. Poor child. The flood dragon skeleton's finger touched Gang Daliai's forehead, transmitting shreds of golden light. It seemed to be some kind of inheritance. He was envious. Gang Daliai had a deity for a mother. Most likely, the deities had passed on everything she had to Gang Daliai. It was really frustrating to compare goods with goods. The glazed fairy deity's eyes shone brightly. While the flood dragon skeleton was passing on the inheritance, she cut off her arm abruptly. At the same time, her will swept out, not forgetting to take the opportunity to kill Suyu. However, the flood dragon skeleton merely turned its head and glanced at her indifferently. Puff! Suyu gasped. The dignified glaze fairy deity's soul did not even manage to escape. She was destroyed on the spot. What exactly was the background of the flood dragon skeleton? How could it be so terrifying? The deities could easily kill a living deity. If it was resurrected, wouldn't it be able to destroy the Great Eastern Alliance? To his surprise, the flood dragon skeleton completed the inheritance. Her deities seemed even weaker, almost about to dissipate. During the inheritance process, Gang Daliai slowly closed his eyes. With tears in his eyes, he called out softly, Mother. As the inheritance ended, he also fell into a deep sleep. The flood dragon skeleton turned to look at Suyu. With a wave of her hand, the power of 5 elements that had destroyed the mortal fairies dissipated. Thank you for bringing my child, the flood dragon skeleton said intermittently. Suyu said, I used your feelings to help me destroy the enemy. I am too ashamed to accept your gratitude. The flood dragon skeleton said, It's okay. My will before I died was to see my child again, to pass on my lifetime's divine path to him, and to tell him what happened to him. However, my deity's will was about to dissipate, and I couldn't wait for him to come back, Suyu thought to himself. Since Gang Daliai was born, He had grown up in the cavern world of the Jinlong continent. How could he come back here? As a matter of fact, he did come back here. After his death, Gang Daily Eye's skeleton came here. Unfortunately, only the skeleton was left at that time. There was no power of bloodline, and the deities within the flood dragon skeleton could not be awakened. So, thank you very much for bringing him here. The flood dragon skeleton said intermittently, as a token of gratitude, this 5 elements mountain is given to you. A delicate mark flew out of the flood dragon skeleton's brow and disappeared into Suyu's forehead. Suddenly, Suyu seemed to have an intimate connection with the 5 elements mountain. The black and white mortal fairies had studied the 5 elements mountain for countless years, but they had never refined it. The reason must be in this mark. Only this mark could control the mountain. Chapter 1176. The flood dragon's remains nodded. After handing over the mark, her divine will became even weaker and was about to collapse. Finally, be careful. The 5 elements divine prison. Don't trust it. At the last moment, the divine will of the flood dragon skeleton looked at the 5 elements divine prison in Suyu's arms. There was a flood dragon soul in the 5 elements divine prison. It was the black-green flood dragon. After that, the divine will of the flood dragon completely dissipated, and the flood dragons remained scattered on the ground. Suyu bowed and silently packed up the flood dragon's remains, sending them to the world of the Martial Tower for burial. With Gang Daily Eye's company, she could rest in peace. As for the black-green flood dragon, Suyu never trusted him. In the outside world, in the cavern world of the Glaze fairy deity, a rain of blood poured down and countless creatures wept. The divine light of the fallen deities radiated throughout the Great Eastern Alliance. Everyone was stunned. Within a day, 3 deities had fallen. Many living beings would never forget this day. The heavens wept blood, and all living things shed tears. The deities who were rushing over looked anxious and uneasy. Unless it was the invasion of the demon race. When had there ever been 3 deities falling one after another? The Rakshasa deity repeatedly attacked, forcing the tree goddess and the evil god to retreat. The 2 were about to be overwhelmed. At this moment, the Glaze fairy deity fell. The Rakshasa deity's expression changed dramatically, and she stared at the belly of the 5 elements mountain in shock. The moment the Glaze fairy deity died, the Rakshasa deity felt a terrible power flash past. That power was even above the Dakini. With the arrival of a large number of deities, the Rakshasa deity knew that it was too late to kill Suyu, so she beat back the 2 deities and hurriedly retreated. The tree goddess and the evil god breathed a sigh of relief. Swoosh! Dense divine light descended in a hurry, surrounding the tree goddess and the evil god. The Dakini, the all-access merchant god, the Shung deity, the sword deity, and even the last-ranked deities all stared at the 2 of them. Strange deities, strange auras, and the divine souls of 2 deities on the tree goddess's body. Which deity came to the Great Eastern Alliance to start a massacre? The Shung deity's eyes were filled with murderous intent, especially since she could sense that neither of the 2 deities was simple. The god in the emerald dress looked weak, but her strength could be ranked in the top 9 among them. Apart from the top 3 gods, the other gods might not necessarily be able to defeat her. As for the giant dog, they were even more afraid of it. Although she was only at the prospective god level, she gave them an unusual sense of fear, far above that of the female gods. The tree goddess snorted. Are you kidding me? It's your gods who are chasing and intercepting us. Just now, a black man who failed plastic surgery ran away. The evil god just smiled and didn't say anything. The evil energy he gave off made one feel wary. When the 2 groups of deities were ready to fight, Suyu walked out of the 5 elements mountain. With a thought, the 5 elements mountain shrank to the size of a palm and fell into his palm. Then he stored it in the 9 jade spiritual pearl. Suyu! All the deities were startled. Even the Shung deity was surprised. She knew that Suyu did not escape, but was with her daughter and the Jing deity in the Tomb of the Gods. But it was precisely because of this that he was even more shocked. Why would he appear here? What did it have to do with this god, a prospective god? The crowd looked at each other in dismay, then looked at Su Yu and started discussing their opinions. Logically speaking, Su Yu is now a wanted criminal. When they saw him, they should arrest him immediately. However, no one was willing to do so. He had destroyed the book deity's treasury, and all the deities remembered it in their hearts. Until the victim made a sound. All the deities, Su Yu killed the law enforcer and violated the alliance of 100 deities. He should be executed on the spot. Qin Feichen said as he looked up to the sky. Things had developed into a scene where the deities gathered, which was far beyond his control. He could only hope that the deities were decisive enough. In fact, if he didn't speak, maybe some deities were ready to attack and give Su Yu a quick death. However, when they heard it was the heir of the book deity's family who urged them to act, they all put their hands in their sleeves and looked at the sky calmly. The awkward scene was silent for a long time. Finally, it was the Dakini, the leader of the deities, who spoke. Su Yu, the book deity's family exposed you for violating the alliance of 100 deities and killing the law enforcer. Is this true? The Dakini was radiating holy brilliance, as always. Su Yu didn't answer immediately. Instead, he asked, "May I ask, if the law enforcer himself committed a heinous crime and acted as a bystander to stop him from committing a crime, is that considered a violation of the alliance of 100 deities?" This point was naturally stipulated in detail when the alliance of 100 deities was established. The Dakini replied, "If the crime he committed was more serious than killing the law enforcer, then the person who did it could not be pardoned." "Then I'm relieved," Su Yu said lightly. "Yes, I killed Qin Kwa." Upon hearing that, the deities weren't surprised. After all, there was undeniable evidence. The Dakini silently took out a light returning mirror and threw it to Su Yu. It clearly replayed the moment when Su Yu killed Qin Kwa. "At least you didn't deny it and admit your mistake," the Dakini said. "Since the crime is established, you will be punished according to the alliance of 100 deities." When she finished speaking, the Dakini moved her mind to kill Su Yu from a distance. "Haven't you ever wondered why there was only a brief scene of me killing Qin Kwa? Why is there no cause and effect?" Su Yu's expression was calm. The Dakini said, "Are you trying to defend yourself?" "I'm not defending myself. I've never been guilty. Why should I defend myself?" Su Yu asked. Qin Feichen saw that things were developing toward the worst possible scenario. He hurriedly said, "Lord Dakini, please don't listen to his lies. What he is saying now is to exonerate himself. On behalf of the book deity's family, I once again plead with Lord Dakini to execute him according to the alliance of 100 deities." The Dakini looked at Su Yu and said, "If you have nothing else to say, I will execute the alliance of 100 deities. What I want to say is very simple. As a law enforcer, Qin Kwa colluded with the demon race. I killed the demon, but he used his identity as a law enforcer to stop me. I insisted on killing the demon, but he tried to kill me." Su Yu said. Upon hearing that, the deities secretly raised their eyebrows. A law enforcer colluded with the demon race? This was no small matter. What was a law enforcer? They were trustworthy people chosen by the deities from their cavern worlds. If the law enforcer colluded with the demon race, then what about the deity? What a joke. Words alone are no proof. Do you think you can slander the law enforcer of my family with a few words of nonsense? Qin Feichen sneered. If Su Yu wanted evidence, he would need to use the light-returning mirror to rush back to Jojo. But it would take more than half a year to go back and forth. "Do you have any evidence?" the Dakini asked. Su Yu shook his head. "I don't have any." Qin Feichen sneered. "Do we have to wait for you for half a year? Don't play this little trick of delaying time in front of the deities. You're making a fool of yourself." Su Yu glanced at him indifferently and said, "I only said I don't have any, but I didn't say it doesn't exist in the hands of others." As his voice trailed off, his eyes drifted into the distance. A man and a woman broke through the air and arrived. Feather God, mission accomplished. The ghost prison's great emperor was calm and composed. Even in the face of the deities, there was nothing unusual, even if his father, the ghost god, was among the deities. Jian Wuxing was indifferent and did not make any unusual movements. She stood silently behind Suyu. Thank you both for your hard work. Suyu took a light returning mirror from the ghost prison's great emperor and instilled a trace of all creation strength into it. A long picture flashed in it. Suyu was about to kill the central prefecture's king, but Qin Kuo suddenly appeared and arrogantly demanded to be taken away. His attitude was arrogant and domineering. Looking at this scene, the deities frowned. The law enforcers killed demons unless they were specific demons. Otherwise, they would be killed on the spot. There was no reason to capture them alive for interrogation. There was something wrong with Qin Kuo. The deities thought to themselves. Next, when the central prefecture's king walked past Suyu, the words he said with a sneer were clearly captured by the light returning mirror. Jiuzhou is deep. This short sentence revealed too much important information. From the central prefecture's king's expression, it could be inferred that he knew he was saved. Seeing this scene, everyone believed about 70% to 80% of it. Then, Suyu killed the central prefecture's king. Qin Kuo was furious and angry. Not only did he speak ill of Suyu, but he also revealed his killing intent to Suyu. Now, even a fool could see that there was something wrong with Qin Kuo. He was shielding the demon. How dare you? A deity who abhorred evil shouted angrily. The existence of the law enforcers was to kill demons. In the end, there was a law enforcer who colluded with the demon and tried to release the demon. Swish! Swish! In an instant, pairs of eyes stared at Qin Feichen. The sword god's eyes narrowed, and his killing intent was revealed. He sneered and said, "Your people colluded with the demon, but you deliberately cut out the truth. You only left the scene of Suyu killing Qin Kuo. You used the hands of the deities to kill the innocent and loyal. You deserve to die 1,000 times." After saying that, the sword god was about to strike. However, Suyu said, "Sword god, wait, it's not over yet." Among the descendants of the deities who came later, Sheng Yuanxin got the hint from Suyu and her mother and showed the evidence she had collected one by one. Reporting to the deities, I have been secretly investigating this matter for a long time. I am sure that Qin Kuo's trip to Jiuzhou to rescue the demon was not a coincidence. It involved the deities of the Great Eastern Alliance. It was only under their instruction that this matter was facilitated, Sheng Yuanxin said. The deities were shocked. There really was a deity involved. Tell us quickly. First of all, the instigator is the family of the book deity. This can be found out from the interrogation of Qin Feichen. Secondly, the family of the Glaze Fairy deity is involved. This can be found out from the interrogation of the Glaze law enforcer who issued the Jiuzhou mission. They are all suspected of colluding with the demon race. Qin Feichen's eyes flashed with a hint of ruthlessness. His mouth squirmed as if he was biting and crushing some kind of poison in his mouth. He was ready to commit suicide on the spot to avoid implicating the rest of the people. Unfortunately, in front of the deities, this little trick could not be hidden from the deities who were already dissatisfied with him. Bang! The sword god's eyes flashed, and a pair of sword lights shot out, piercing through his neck and nailing him to the ground. The poison in his mouth flowed to his neck, but it was blocked by the two swords, and the drug could not take effect in his body. At the same time, the sacred Kylin also handed over Glaze's soul. The deities began to interrogate him on the spot. With their means, what could be hidden from them? As a result, the deities on the spot were all shocked after the investigation. Among the deities involved in this case, there was the fourth deity, the Rakshasa deity. Chapter 1177. Moreover, according to Sheng Yuanxin's information, the demon they rescued together was probably a hybrid of human and demon born by the Rakshasa deity. Sheng Yuanxin's eyes met Suyu's. Then, she reported another earth-shattering event. The construction of the book deity's treasury was a contract made by the Rakshasa family, the book deity's family, and the Glaze Fairy deity's family many generations ago. With the support of the Rakshasa deity, the book deity's treasury was built successfully. The purpose was to spy on the deities' secrets and grasp their weaknesses. The deities felt a chill down their spines when they recalled the birth of the current Rakshasa deity and the demon god. If the Rakshasa deity handed over their weaknesses to the demons, wouldn't it be? The mere thought of it made the deities restless. Many of them had fatal weaknesses. If they were grasped by the demons, it would be extremely easy to kill them. The book deity's family is really not a good thing. A deity finally couldn't hold back his anger. Ignoring the presence of the saintly Dakini, he bellowed. We should have destroyed the book deity's treasury together. We didn't do it because of the Rakshasa deity's warning. It turns out that they are in cahoots. These traitorous deity families use our resources to cultivate and reproduce, but they conspire to harm the entire continent. Even 1,000 deaths can atone for their sins. The crowd was furious. Suyu continued, I'm afraid it's not just the three deities. Just now, the Rakshasa deity, the glaze fairy deity, the water deity, and the stone deity besieged me and prevented me from telling the deities the truth. Deities, please find out if there are any other accomplices. These scumbags of the Great Eastern Alliance should be wiped out. The water deity and the stone deity were involved too. The deities were furious as they thought about it. They didn't expect the demons to have infiltrated the Great Eastern Alliance to such an extent. All the deities looked at the Dakini, waiting for her to make the final decision. The Dakini glanced at the deities and sighed. We are all deities. Why we have to kill each other? She sounded like she didn't have the heart to do it. But this time, the gods could no longer tolerate Dakini's demons are not scary, they said. What is scary is the remaining demons who pretend to be allies. If Dakini doesn't have the heart to do it, we could be the bad guys. One deity, two deities. Even if the Dakini was a saint, there was nothing she could do. She could only say, very well, everything shall be carried out according to the 100 Deities Alliance. Suyu stared at the Dakini and sneered inwardly. How could a saint mother like her, who doesn't distinguish between friend and foe, be worthy of being the leader of all deities? If they hadn't discovered it early enough, when the demons launched a full-scale attack, the rebels would have worked together to annihilate them. Would Dakini have been able to stand here and show off her benevolence as the Virgin Mary? Speaking of which, when Suyu killed Qin Kwa, the Dakini did not have the slightest bit of saintly sentiments. She even said that she wanted to carry out the alliance of 100 deities. She was merciful to her enemies, but cruel to her own people. What a good saint mother. However, Suyu did not reveal his hostility, as it was still not the right time to do so. With the gods personally investigating, what could they not find out? In addition to confirming the water god and the stone god, they also discovered the families of 3 related deities. Those 3 deities were among the deities, holding on to their wishful thinking until they were finally found out and fled. Their end was self-evident. They were all killed by the angry deities, and their bodies and souls were destroyed. Another 3 cavern worlds fell with boundless rain of blood. Within a day, 6 deities perished in succession. The entire Great Eastern Alliance was seething with excitement and shock. As many as 6 of the high and mighty deities perished in a day. A bloodbath was carried out among the deities. Just as Suyu said, the Great Eastern Alliance was going to be covered with a rain of divine blood to wash away the filth among the 100 deities. At the same time, the families of the 6 deities were also ruthlessly destroyed. All the heirs of the direct line of descent were all killed, and no one was spared. For a moment, the Great Eastern Alliance was set off in a reign of terror that had not been seen for a long time. The only pity and the only worry was that the Rakshasa deity robbed a divine bone ship at the port and fled into the vast galaxy. The deities could not catch up with her. There was no need to elaborate on how terrible the 4th-ranked Rakshasa deity was. If she lurked somewhere and suddenly jumped out to make trouble, there were very few deities who could stop her. In order to eliminate the hidden dangers, the Great Eastern Alliance formed a hunting team led by the all-access merchant god and the Shung deity. A total of 9 deities drove the divine bone ship into the galaxy. The 9 deities were eager to hunt down the Rakshasa deity, but there was also one deity who was reluctant to do so. Why do you have to bring me along? Suyu was indignant. At the meeting of the deities, Su Yu was selected as an honorable member of the hunting team with 99% of the votes. The reason why it was 99% was that the only vote against it was cast by Su Yu himself. Everyone smiled and tacitly did not look at Su Yu's sad eyes. Why? Of course, it was because they were worried about leaving Su Yu in the Great Eastern Alliance. Think about it. In just 2 years, how much trouble did he stir up in the Great Eastern Alliance? In the past, it triggered the war between the Crane deity and the Jing deity. Now it directly triggered the internal bloodshed of the deities. If no one was watching, they were really afraid that after they left, Su Yu would once again turn the Great Eastern Alliance upside down. Therefore, they feared and liked this scourge, so they could only carry him with them. Don't be angry. This hunt may go to many areas. The galaxy is very big, and the Great Eastern Alliance is not the only place. Sheng Yuanxin squatted in front of Su Yu, holding her chin with her hands, and comforted him with a smile. This hunt also brought several descendants of the deities. They were not expected to fight, but it could be used as an experience to expand their knowledge. Su Yu snorted. He was trying to find a way to get the cavern world of the 6 great, no, 7 deities, including the Rakshasa deity. In the end, it was taken away while he was still planning. His depression could be imagined. Seeing Su Yu's face, Sheng Yuanxin giggled. She looked at Qin Feichen, whose cultivation had been destroyed and who was tied to the boat behind Su Yu. Sheng Yuanxin's pretty eyes blinked. Speaking of which, why did you leave him alive that day? The descendants of the deities who participated were to be beheaded, and Qin Feichen was a target that must be killed, but Su Yu pleaded for him to be spared. Hearing this, Su Yu smiled, and his smile was a little cold. Haven't you heard that weeds need to be cut by the roots? Have you forgotten that there is still a contemporary book deity wandering in the world? Do you know where he is? Sheng Yuanxin asked curiously. Su Yu sneered. If I'm not wrong, we should be able to find the footprints of him and the Rakshasa deity at the same time somewhere. Where? Sheng Yuanxin was shocked. She now almost believed in Su Yu's words unreservedly. Past experiences had all verified that Su Yu's speculation had never been wrong. Chapter 1178. Su Yu confidently and surely named a place. Sheng Yuanxin's crystal eyes flickered slightly. The world of divine remains, the darkest and most chaotic area in the galaxy, was also one of the destinations of their trip. According to the results of the discussions of the gods, the most likely place for the Rakshasa deity to escape was the world of divine remains. It was the holy land of all the traders of the cavern world. No cavern world dared to go there to capture them, including the Great Eastern Alliance. It could be said that the world of divine remains was a paradise for those who had committed heinous crimes. If the Rakshasa deity wanted to completely avoid being hunted down, the only way was to hide in the world of divine remains, the place abandoned by the gods. However, Sheng Yuanxin was not stupid. The Rakshasa deity escaped to the world of divine remains, but the book deity. I'm afraid he doesn't even know what happened in the Alliance recently, let alone that the book deity's family has been uprooted. Maybe he is rushing back to the Great Eastern Alliance now. How can you be sure that he is in the world of divine remains? Su Yu smiled and pointed to his head. If I were the book deity and had been secretly plotting against the Alliance, I would never leave the Alliance to wander outside. At the very least, I would want to know the situation and important news of the Alliance as soon as possible. So, if the book deity of this generation is not an idiot, he should find a way to find out what happened in the Alliance continent. It has been 7 days since the purge of the Alliance gods, and the news will reach the galaxy one step ahead of us. If the book deity knows about the situation, he will find the safest place in the galaxy to hide. That place is undoubtedly the world of divine remains. After listening to Su Yu's analysis, Sheng Yuanxin blinked. It sounded very forced, but it made sense after thinking about it. As far as Sheng Yuanxin knew, the divine path that all the book deities practiced was the path of calligraphy. They were very knowledgeable and intelligent. The current book deity was no fool. Therefore, it was possible that the book deity was hiding in the world of divine remains. So, you kidnapped Qin Feichen to lure the book deity out? Sheng Yuanxin guessed Su Yu's intention and finally understood why he wanted to protect Qin Feichen. To Sheng Yuanxin's annoyance, Su Yu shook his head and said with a faint smile, "With the wisdom of the book deity, luring the snake out of its hole will only give him an opportunity to take advantage of. I have other uses for it. You can guess other people's guesses accurately, but it's extremely difficult for others to guess you. It's really unfair." Sheng Yuanxin gloomily stared at Su Yu. Then, she stood up and trotted to the cabin to inform the 9 deities of Su Yu's plan. Su Yu shrugged his shoulders, stood up, and looked at the pitch-black Star River, his eyes full of thoughts. He was forced to board the ship, but it wasn't because he had no other choice. If he stayed in the Great Eastern Alliance, if the Rakshasa deity came to seek revenge, no one could protect him. Instead, if he followed behind the 9 deities, the Rakshasa deity could do nothing about it. In the end, he decided to follow the fleet because of Mother Dakini. For some unknown reason, this deity gave Su Yu an uneasy feeling. Su Yu's intuition told him that it was best to stay away from this deity. I hope that the intelligence system left in the Alliance can dig out enough information about this god, Su Yu thought to himself. Before leaving the Great Eastern Alliance, Su Yu asked Yang Tai and Wang Yunxian to take care of the Crane deity's family. At the same time, he set up his own intelligence network to secretly investigate Mother Voidwalker. When Su Yu went back, he should be able to get enough information to analyze the Dakini, who was a saint. "Su Yu, if you want to use me to lure my father out, you'd better give up. My father's wisdom is beyond your reach. He won't be fooled." Qin Feichen stared at Su Yu with hatred and contempt. Su Yu smiled slightly. His smile was bright, but there was a hint of coldness in it. "Why do you all think that I will use you to lure the snake out of the hole?" Looking at Su Yu's smile, Qin Feichen's heart thumped, and he had a very uneasy feeling. Back in the warehouse, Su Yu saw 3 people standing in the room. The Netherworld faction Killer Black Phoenix and the Black and White Dust Fairies. "What do you think?" Su Yu stared at the Black and White Dust Fairies. The Black Dust Fairies and the White Dust Fairies looked at each other and knelt on the ground. "We are willing to serve Master Su." "Well, so you're willing to transplant the great path of prospective gods." Su Yu smiled. The great path of Jingang and the great path of Glaze, fairy deity's daughter, Luli. Su Yu decided to give it to them after some consideration. In fact, the person he was most looking forward to was Sienna. After all, she was his most beloved wife. If the great path of prospective gods was transplanted, she would become a god in the future without any suspense. However, Sienna refused. She had activated the bloodline of the Phoenix of Death. As long as she cultivated quietly, it would not be difficult to become a prospective god. Although it was good to transplant the great path of deity quickly, it would be a waste of her physique. Even if she became a god, her achievements would be very limited. Secondly, the people who were looking forward to it were the Ghost Prison's Great Emperor, Jian Wuxing. The Ghost Prison's Great Emperor was tempted, but the attributes of the Great Path of God were not compatible with him as the son of the Ghost God, so he could not transplant them. Jian Wuxing was also a little tempted, but in the end, she still chose to give up. She was still young and had a chance to become God. Finally, Su Yu found the Black and White Dust Fairies. In the final battle of Jiuzhou, the 2 of them gave their lives to support him, and they were worthy of Su Yu's trust. Knowing Su Yu's intention, the Black and White Dust Fairies were overjoyed. At their age, they could only reach the first stage of Mortal Fairy after a long time of cultivation. Even with the resources of the Great Eastern Alliance, they could only reach the 3rd stage of Mortal Fairy. They could not be compared with the younger generation like the Ghost Prison's Great Emperor and Jian Wuxing, who had reached the peak stage of Mortal Fairy. They didn't dare to have any extravagant hopes of becoming deities. Now that Su Yu had given them a chance, they were naturally overjoyed. All right, 2 portions of godly spirit, each representing a type of divine path. You can distribute them among yourselves. I hope you can surprise me the next time I see you, Su Yu said. The Black and White Dust Fairies were extremely grateful. They took the Source God and prepared to return to the world of the martial arts tower to refine and stabilize it quietly. But all of a sudden, The two mortal fairies' eyes focused at the same time. "My lord, we have something to report to you. Recently, we have felt that our life force has been flowing away faster." Hmm? Suyu raised his brows. The only possibility for this to happen was that the glittering jewel mortal fairy was approaching. "We think that the glittering jewel mortal fairy might have also left the Great Eastern Alliance and entered the galaxy." The glittering jewel mortal fairy. Suyu had a complicated look in his eyes as he said, "I got it." With a wave of his sleeves, Suyu sent the two mortal fairies back to the world of the martial arts tower. Then, he calmed his mind and practiced silently. With the 4 months of training in the tomb of the god of death, breaking through to stage 5 all creations was a piece of cake. A month later, Suyu's whole body was surging with strong all creations fluctuations, and a very solid crown was surrounding his head. "Congratulations, Master. You're not far from the peak of all creations. I believe that in the near future, you will be able to reach the realm of the mortal fairy," the Black Phoenix praised softly. Suyu nodded. "Well, my cultivation has gone up, but my overall strength has not improved significantly. It's time to try to use the divine blood." After saying that, Suyu took out a jar, which was filled with the blood collected when the water god died and the heavens wept blood. At that time, he collected a jar full of blood rain, but now it was condensed into 10 drops of divine blood. This was the real essence of the water god. With a twirl of his fingertips, he injected 10 drops of divine blood into the space between his eyebrows. The divine blood was naturally absorbed into the divine 9-dragon cauldron that had been dry for a long time. The divine blood was diluted, overflowing 1/10 of the cauldron. The long-lost diluted divine blood slid down the wall of the cauldron and flowed past the dragon of life. The remaining 1/3 was also crystallized. At this point, the emerald dragon was completely crystallized. Strange information appeared in Suyu's mind. It was the special ability granted by the divine 9-dragon cauldron. 1/3 of the crystallization, Suyu obtained the ability to resurrect the dead. 2/3, he obtained the heart of eternity. After all the crystallization, Suyu obtained the domain of life. Chapter 1179. The domain of life was built on the foundation of resurrection and the heart of eternity. Once it was used, a domain would appear with Suyu as the center. Those who were in the domain would have eternal life and be indestructible. The domain could only be used once a day, and it would last for the time it took to brew a cup of tea. In other words, unless there was a power that surpassed the divine 9-dragon cauldron, no one would be able to kill Suyu or the people who were engulfed by the domain. With this ability, Suyu was greatly surprised. In that case, even if a deity came to kill him, he would be able to hold on for a cup of tea's time. "You came just in time," Suyu thought to himself. The journey to the world of divine remains was fraught with danger. It was great to have such a life-saving measure. Half a year later, the battleships of the hunting squad followed the traces left by the Rakshasa god, crossing half of the galaxy and arriving at the center of the galaxy. That was the darkest central area of the Star River, the land of the gods. Just like the Great Eastern Alliance, the land of the gods was formed by the alliance of many cavern worlds, forming a vast area of 9 cavern worlds. In the vast galaxy, it looked like an island radiating light. Somewhere in the world of divine remains, the Rakshasa deity, who had fled all the way to this place, had a face full of resentment. Sitting opposite her was the book deity, who wore an indifferent expression. "Damn it, our arrangements for the past generations have been destroyed in a single night." The Rakshasa deity emitted a brutal aura. She said angrily, "All of this is because of your useless heir. If he hadn't acted on his own and decided to fight Suyu without consulting me, we wouldn't have been exposed. If Qin Feichin hadn't insisted on taking the risk, things wouldn't have developed to this point." The book deity, who was sitting opposite him, looked calm and composed. Even though he had long known that the book deity's family had been destroyed and that the book deity's treasury, which had been built with the painstaking efforts of the previous book deities, had also been destroyed, he did not show any change in his expression. He was so calm that he almost lost his humanity. Feichen's fault lies not in his power, but in his character. He was not as good as Suyu. Even though he had the upper hand, he was still consigned to eternal damnation. Such an heir, even if he survives, it will be difficult for him to become a book deity. The book deity said indifferently. The problem has already arisen. Now, the problem is how to make up for it. Rakshasa deity sneered. Make up for it? Our foundations have been destroyed. How are we going to make up for it? The realm of devils. The book deity said briefly. Hearing that, the Rakshasa deity's face slightly froze. She said in a low voice, "It's true that we've become the demon clan spies in the Great Eastern Alliance. But now that we've been expelled from the Alliance to the demon world, I'm afraid that what awaits us isn't an invitation, but murder. Because we have two fatal weaknesses. First, we have lost our value to the demon realm. Secondly, the devil realm does not fully trust us." There was calmness and wisdom in the book deity's eyes. "What if we leave with the merit?" "Where did the merit come from?" asked the Rakshasa deity. The book deity said faintly, "The Great Eastern Alliance will definitely send deities to hunt you down. According to the time, it should be arriving soon. If we can capture all the deities who are coming, we can prove our value. The demon clan is about to attack the Great Eastern Alliance, and they will not miss out on valuable and loyal people. Carrying the heads of the deities to the realm of devils would prove the value of their strength and their sincerity." The Rakshasa deity shook her head coldly. "You are too naive. The deities who are chasing me are likely to be the Shung deity or the all-access merchant god, or both of them. Together with the deities who are following them, there may be no less than 5 deities. And I can't hurt them at all." The book deity smiled faintly. "Have you forgotten where this is? Killing 5 deities has never been a problem. This was the world of divine remains." The Rakshasa deity was stunned, and the corners of her mouth gradually revealed a hint of ferocity. The book deity said lightly, "I'm not afraid of them coming. I'm afraid that they won't dare to come." Suyu had been training silently for half a year and had touched the edge of the peak, all creations. He believed that he would soon reach the peak, all creations. "Suyu, Miss Yuanshin has been here. If you wake up, go to the main cabin. The deities are discussing the landing plan," the Black Phoenix said softly. Had they arrived? Arriving at the main cabin, the all-access merchant god, the Shung deity, and the other 9 deities had reached the final stage of their discussion. It seemed that Suyu's participation was not needed. In fact, they did not expect Suyu to be of much help. After all, this was a war between the deities. "You are here. We have found out from the intelligence system of the all-access merchant god in the world of divine remains that the Rakshasa deity and the book deity are hiding in the world of divine remains." The Shung deity looked at Suyu, secretly surprised. The deities on the side also showed a look of approval. Previously, Suyu speculated that the book deity must be in the world of divine remains, but they did not fully believe it. In the end, everything was as Suyu expected. They met the book deity and the Rakshasa deity at the same time in the world of divine remains. After a pause, the Shung deity said, "In another 2 or 3 days, we will arrive at the world of divine remains. In view of the hostility of the world of divine remains against the Great Eastern Alliance, we decided to abandon the ship and disguise ourselves as ordinary people to enter the world of divine remains, so as not to cause a commotion in the world of divine remains and alert the enemy. Once, the Great Eastern Alliance formed a group of deities to crusade against the world of divine remains, but they were defeated and fled. Many deities perished. The tragic history made them afraid to enter rashly again. Are you staying on the ship, or are you going to the world of divine remains?" the Shung deity asked. Suyu nodded. "Everyone is responsible for the world of divine remains. Of course, I have to go to the world of divine remains in person." The Shung deity nodded. "Well, you disguise yourself and come with us." However, to the surprise of the Shung deity and the rest of the deities, Suyu said, "Disguise myself, and then accompany you to be annihilated? What do you mean by that?" The Shung deity was stunned. The rest of the deities were also surprised. Fortunately, They knew that Su Yu was resourceful. There must be a reason for his words, so they listened quietly. Su Yu smiled and said, "Is it difficult to understand? If I were the book deity and the Rakshasa deity, I would have guessed your arrival. They have two choices. First, escape immediately. Second, seek refuge in the demon dimension. If they chose to escape, they would not have waited for you to discover their footprints. So they chose the second option, which is to seek refuge in the demon dimension. However, as exiles, they have lost their value to the demon dimension and cannot be trusted. If they rashly go to the demon dimension, they will probably become tonics for the demon gods. Therefore, if the book deity is smart enough, he will bring a gift with him. Aren't you the best gift?" After listening to Su Yu's explanation, the deities looked at each other, a little surprised. The all-access merchant god smiled with appreciation. "Why are you so sure that they dare to attack us?" "Because, judging from the actions of the previous book deities in creating the book deities' treasury, the previous book deities have two characteristics. First, they are smart enough to look down on the deities in the world. Second, they have the courage to risk universal condemnation and build the book deities' treasury in an orderly manner. A smart and ambitious person has a very huge weakness, and that is taking risks." The all-access merchant god's eyes twinkled, and he couldn't help but applaud. He laughed and said, "You are indeed worthy of being the person that my son Yongtai admires. You are indeed smart. That's right. The biggest weakness of a smart and ambitious person is taking risks." He was so sure because the all-access merchant god himself was such a person. Su Yu said, "So, not only will the book deity not escape, but he will also make you his targets and is waiting for you to jump into a trap." Staring at Su Yu's eloquent manner in front of the deities, Sheng Yuanxin was not convinced. She said, "But this time, we entered the world of divine remains in disguise. Even if the book deity had set up a trap, how could he have prevented us?" Su Yu smiled slightly. "Do you think that with the wisdom of the book deity, he won't be able to guess how you came in? If it were me, I would have anticipated that you would enter in disguise and set up an ambush at the port in advance. When you think that your plan is flawless, I will catch you all in one fell swoop. If it doesn't work, I can leave one or two deities behind." Hearing this, the deities couldn't help but look dignified. Su Yu's words were not without reason. The deities who attacked the world of divine remains thought that they were strong, but in the end, they couldn't suppress the local snake. Not only did they fail to destroy the world of divine remains, but several deities fell. To this day, the Great Eastern Alliance still had a psychological shadow over this matter. If that's the case, it is impossible to enter the world of divine remains by disguise. The Sheng deity weighed the pros and cons for a long time, looked at the merchant god, and gave up this seemingly safe but actually dangerous method. Perhaps, as Su Yu had speculated, they would all be wiped out. But if they didn't sneak in secretly, could they do it openly? The world of divine remains was very hostile to the Great Eastern Alliance. Once they entered, they would be in a state of panic. They wouldn't even be able to find the shadow of the book deity and the Rakshasa deity before they were attacked by the people of the world of divine remains. The deities frowned and pondered, but they couldn't think of a foolproof plan. "We can't do it in secret, and we can't do it openly either. Are we going to stop at the world of divine remains after so many hardships? How could the deities be willing to give up? Indulging the two traitors, the Rakshasa deity and the book deity, would become a disaster for the Great Eastern Alliance in the future." The all-access merchant god's eyes flashed, and he looked at Su Yu with a smile. "Since you have a way, why don't you tell us so that we can discuss it?" Swish! One by one, the eyes of the deities fell on Su Yu. The deities recognized Su Yu's intelligence. Su Yu smiled. "It's not difficult to enter the world of divine remains safely. We could just drive straight in." Drive straight in. The deities were a little stunned, and they were all trying to guess Su Yu's intentions. "Yes, drive in openly and make a clear stand so that the world of divine remains knows that we are here." Su Yu smiled. "Huh?" Sheng Yuanxin was dumbfounded. "Are you crazy? We haven't even driven in yet, and we will be attacked by the world of divine remains. We were counting on you to come up with a good idea, humph. Suyu smiled meaningfully. Don't worry. Not only will the world of divine remains not attack us, but they will also let us in. We just need to change our identities a little. Chapter 1180. 2 hours later. In the main cabin, the 9 deities looked gloomy. The Shang deity shook her tight and revealing leather clothes. Her navel, thighs, and even half of her chest were exposed, and her white skin was particularly hot. How was this the dignified and elegant Shang deity? She was clearly a charming and slutty woman. Under the gaze of the other 8 deities, she was ashamed and angry, and said fiercely, "What are you looking at? How much better are you?" The all-access merchant god touched his one-eyed eye patch and couldn't help but laugh. "I become a one-eyed man." The all-access merchant god, who was handsome and comfortable, had lost all his heroic spirit. With his ragged clothes, he looked like a sinister villain. "You're considered good. Are you as miserable as me?" The divine sword behind the sword god was nowhere to be seen. Instead, there was a broom on his shoulder, and his ragged clothes made him look like a slave on a ship. "Haha, are you comparing who is miserable? Are you as miserable as me?" Another female deity smiled nervously and shook her body, suddenly exuding a pungent body odor, as if she had not bathed for several months. Her face, with makeup, was as ferocious as a demon. But before the disguise, she was the dear god, a goddess famous for her cuteness. After putting on makeup, she became a fierce and stinky demon. The rest of the deities were the same. Their divine temperament was changed, and they all became lowly characters. "Hey, deities, is this a miserable competition?" Duh. At this time, Suyu walked in and looked at their costumes. His eyes lit up, and he praised, "Black Phoenix, well done." As an assassin, she was best at 2 things. The first was killing, and the second was disguising. Black Phoenix was the best at disguising herself as a variety of characters. With her help, the entire crew of the warship was reborn in temperament, disguised as the dark and lowly characters in the land of the gods, so as to avoid suspicion. The 9 deities stared at Suyu, and the Shang deity was indignant. "Why don't you disguise?" Only Suyu was well-dressed, without the slightest disguise. Standing among them, he was like a crane in a flock of chickens. "Haha, of course I don't. I am the owner of this galactic pirate ship, the 3rd son of the Toba deity family in exile, Toba Yun. The Toba deity family was a deity family of the Great Western Alliance on the other side of the galaxy. 3 years ago, the Toba deity died in an accident. His 3 sons fought over the inheritance. Among them, the eldest son emerged victorious. The 2nd son was killed, and the 3rd son was nowhere to be found. All that was known was that he had escaped into the Milky Way and had not been found until now. Only the Black Phoenix knew that 3 years ago, when she was on a mission, she had personally witnessed the 3rd young master, Toba Yun, being robbed and killed by a group of galactic pirates. That group of pirates had no idea who Toba Yun was. Hence, no one knew whether Toba Yun was dead or alive. In this way, Suyu could openly borrow his identity, and the few deities behind him could pretend to be Toba Yun's loyal servants. The entire battleship was disguised as a galactic pirate ship, and they became members of the Toba family who had been persecuted and had no choice but to become galactic pirates. The thing that the world of divine remains lacked the least was galactic pirates. It could be said that more than 90% of the pirates in the universe used the world of divine remains as their base. It was normal for new pirates to seek refuge in the world of divine remains every day. No matter how incredible the book deity's foresight is, he would never have guessed that the high and mighty deities of the past would disguise themselves as bandits. Suyu flashed a bright smile. The Shang deity stared at Suyu and said angrily, "If your plan fails, I will never forgive you. Tiske, that's not enough, my queen of violence. Your tone should be more explosive, but it should be more flirtatious and charming. Only then will it fit the image of a woman who is constantly surrounded by a ship full of stinky men." Suyu interrupted her and pointed out with great interest. The blue veins on the Shang deity's forehead were throbbing. She regretted bringing Suyu on board. Anyone with a discerning eye would know that Suyu had taken the opportunity to take revenge on them by forcibly bringing him on board. That was why they had to dress up so shamefully. There could have been a better choice. However, they had to admit that even they would not have thought of dressing up like this. According to their plan, sneaking into the world of divine remains and disguising themselves as ordinary people would be the best they could do. How could things turn out like this? Their temperament had changed so much that even their own parents would not be able to recognize them. The sound of a brisk jog was accompanied by a soft and weak voice. "Suyu, I've changed. What do you think?" Sheng Yuanxin jogged all the way in, and her eyes swept across the deities naturally. She stopped in her tracks and exclaimed, "Who are you? Why are you here?" However, when she took a closer look, she found them familiar and couldn't help but open her mouth wide. "Ah, you are Yuanxin. Don't tell anyone about this," the Sheng deity said with embarrassment. Before she could finish, Sheng Yuanxin interrupted her abruptly. "Ah, Suyu, who is this revealing woman? She is dressed so shamefully." Slap! The Sheng deity's face was flushed, and she stared at Suyu angrily, as if she wanted to strangle him to death. She didn't know if her own parents knew her, but it was absolutely true that her daughter didn't know her. Upon hearing this, the deities were amused and smiled bitterly. When they came to their senses, Sheng Yuanxin's eyes widened. "You are my mother?" After confirming it, Sheng Yuanxin almost choked herself to death with a gasp. She glared at Suyu fiercely. You actually made my mother." Suyu narrowed his eyes and smiled wickedly. He gently lifted her chin. "Little beauty, how can you talk to me like that? Is it because you had a taste of me last night and can't bear to part with me? Don't worry, when we get off the ship, I'll sell you for a good price. I'm sure there will be a man who will make you feel good." Sheng Yuanxin's face was flushed. She was a descendant of a deity who had been captured by Tuoba Yun, a little beauty who was a prospective deity. Hearing Su Yu's evil teasing, even though she knew Su Yu was pretending, she couldn't help but blush. She said softly, "Su Yu, when we return to the Great Eastern Alliance, you'll see." Sheng Yuanxin slapped Su Yu's hand away angrily and ran away shyly with her dress. When Su Yu turned around, he felt 9 rays of cold light. The Sheng deity said calmly, "I'm fine, yes, I'm really fine." The merchant god glanced at her and thought to himself, "Why are you clenching your fists so tightly if you're fine?" "Ahem, Su Yu, you're good at acting. I hope we arrive safely." The merchant god coughed a few times. Su Yu said seriously, "Cut the crap. When I enter the world of divine remains, I want good wine and food. All of you get to work. Don't hang around in front of me. Get lost." The 9 deities clenched their fists together. At the port of the world of divine remains, the book deity and the Rakshasa deity stood in a restaurant, quietly waiting for news from the port. A few days ago, their intelligence personnel were active. They must have arrived nearby. Why haven't they shown up yet? The Rakshasa deity was a little uneasy. The book deity looked calm. "Don't panic. If I'm right, they must have chosen to sneak in and won't be too conspicuous. The port is guarded by the pirate deity himself. Together with the god-destroying crossbows made by the 9 deities, they won't be able to return." Hearing about the god-destroying crossbows, the Rakshasa deity felt a lot more at ease. This divine crossbow had long been lost, and there were only 9 left in the world. Once it was launched, it would hunt down the deities until they were dead. In the ancient times when the 2 great alliances had just emerged in the Xing River, the god-destroying crossbow was a god-destroying killing weapon that terrified the deities. There were no less than 100 deities who died under the god-destroying crossbow, and many of them were powerful deities with relatively high rankings. Even the Rakshasa deity, who was ranked 4th, had no confidence that she could escape the pursuit of the god-destroying crossbow. With this divine crossbow, as long as the deities were found, they could be killed. However, the Rakshasa deity was still a little worried. If the deities who were chasing choose to enter in a hidden way, the pirate deity might not be able to detect them, right? It's not a if, It's a certainty. Based on my understanding of the character of the deities of the Great Eastern Alliance, they will definitely choose to abandon the ship and enter the world of divine remains. Therefore, I have told the pirate deity to be sure to check the small ships strictly. If they cross the Xing River, there was no doubt that they must be deities, because only deities could cross the Xing River. As for the other places in the world of divine remains, there were boundaries created by the 9 deities. If they broke in from other places, they would have to attack the boundaries and thus expose themselves. Therefore, if they wanted to enter the world of divine remains, there was only one way. The port. There was only one way to enter, and that was to enter by boat. After hearing the book deity's analysis, the Rakshasa deity was completely relieved. Book deity is thoughtful. It will be a piece of cake to play with those arrogant deities. 2 days later, a huge warship broke through the nebula and headed straight for the port of the world of divine remains. The huge size of the warship could be seen from afar. Divine light flashed over the port, and a deity covered in divine light appeared quietly. He stared at the huge warship with a serious look in his eyes. Only the deity families of the Great Eastern and Western Alliances can build such a warship. Are the deities of the Great Eastern Alliance so ungrateful that they dare to enter the world of divine remains so openly? Pirate deity, do you want to launch the god-destroying crossbow and pierce through the warship? The 3 prospective deities below licked their lips with excitement. The pirate deity gazed deeply at the warship and shook his head gently. Let's wait a little longer. As they got closer, the warship came into view clearly. However, it was not the symbol of the Great Eastern Alliance, but a battered warship that seemed to have drifted for a long time. A skull flag was raised on the ship. Looking at the people on the deck, all of them looked fierce and ruthless. A pirate ship? The pirate deity was slightly stunned. Suddenly, a handsome young man in bright clothes waved his folding fan and looked at the world of divine remains in front of him with a smile. The pirate deity looked carefully, not letting go of anyone on the ship. Their appearance, behavior, demeanor, and even the look in their eyes did not escape his eyes. As the pirate deity, he had seen all kinds of pirates in the world. He could tell who was in disguise at a glance. The pirates in front of him were slightly inexperienced. They did not look like pirates, and there seemed to be no trace of their disguise. Chapter 1181. Asan asked them who they are. Upon hearing that, the third-ranked prospective deity flew over and talked with Su Yu and the others. After a while, he returned. The Tuoba deity's family? The pirate deity frowned slightly. The death of the Tuoba deity of the Great Western Alliance and the 3 sons who had seized the position of deity were no secret in the world of divine remains. Rumors about the 3rd son, Tuoba Yun, were also occasionally circulated in the world of divine remains. As the pirate deity, he had heard of such news. As a result, the suspicion in his heart was greatly reduced. No wonder those people were so inexperienced and did not look like real pirates. It turned out that they were the descendants of deities who had become deities halfway through their lives. Pirate deity, do you want to take advantage of them now? Asan, who was short and had a dark yellow face, made a throat-slitting gesture. The Tuoba deity was a deity's family. As his son, Tuoba Yin should have a lot of good things on him. Hearing that, the pirate deity glared at him. We are galactic pirates, not bandits. We never rob the world of divine remains, and we never attack those who seek refuge in the world of divine remains. Do you want me to break the agreement of the Alliance of the 9 Gods? The 9 deities of the world of divine remains had a similar agreement. In order to strengthen the world of divine remains, the traders of various cavern worlds were widely accommodated. Therefore, those who came to seek refuge were not allowed to be attacked by the underworld faction, the pirate deity, and other forces. Otherwise, if word got out, who would dare to seek refuge? As a galactic pirate, the pirate deity was particularly restricted. Asan timidly retreated behind the pirate deity and did not say a word, but his eyes kept turning. He had just boarded the ship and found a coquettish and revealing woman on board. She was the best of the best. With just a few glances, Asan was aroused. He had urged the pirate deity because he was thinking about that woman. Let them in. The pirate deity waved his hand, and the soldiers standing in ambush at the port made way for them. On the warship, Toobi Yun and the others who had received the hint drove the warship ashore openly. The all-access merchant god and the Shang deity, as well as the other deities, played different roles on the pirate ship. Their celestial spirit was sealed without a trace. Even in the presence of the pirate deity, they could not detect the breath of their celestial spirit. The group landed and glimpsed the ambushing soldiers. They were not surprised, but when they glimpsed the 9 god-destroying crossbows hidden among the ambushing soldiers, they were extremely frightened, and a chill ran down their spines. Just as Suyu had predicted, there were many soldiers lying in ambush at the port, waiting for them to fall into the trap. And they discovered that the pirate deity's focus was not on their big ships, but on the smaller divine bone ships. This caused their understanding of Suyu to reach a whole new level. This child's foresight was truly miraculous. According to their original plan, the 9 gods would disguise themselves as ordinary people and sneak in separately, which would be exactly what they wanted. The pirate deity has other matters to attend to, and it is not convenient for him to meet you. Your warship can be docked here, and you can move freely in the world of divine remains, San said. Without the warship, these people could forget about leaving the world of divine remains. Therefore, guarding the warship was equivalent to guarding them. Sure. Suyu nodded calmly and waved his sleeves. Then, several deities who were disguised as pirates dragged the 2 captives out of the cabin fiercely. One was Qin Feichen, the real captive, and the other was Sheng Yuanxin, the fake captive. When San saw the 2 of them, he was taken aback. Prospective gods? Descendants of the gods? This, San, which auction house in the land of divine remains, is the most reliable. I caught 2 descendants of the gods along the way. One was a peak mortal fairy, and the other was a prospective god. I want to sell them at a high price. Knowing that they had the ability to capture prospective gods, San instantly became much more solemn. The more chaotic a place was, the more power was worshipped. Good question, Mr. Tooba. The most suitable auction house is, of course, the pirate deity's cavern world. Many good things plundered by pirates from the galaxy will be sold in the pirate deity's cavern world. Over time, the pirate deity's cavern world has become the center of the black market in the world of divine remains. Here, you can buy anything and sell anything. San glanced at the charming and revealing chick that the Sheng deity had transformed into. He couldn't help but swallow a mouthful of saliva as he spoke meaningfully. So he was amused. Coveting the Sheng deity? Even the pirate deity wasn't qualified. Thank you very much. Suyu smiled. He led a group of pirates, escorted the 2 captives, and swaggered into the world of divine remains. In and in somewhere, the deities, the captives, and Suyu sat in a circle. Oh, the feathered deity has a wonderful plan. We really entered openly and did not arouse the slightest suspicion. The all-access merchant god was full of praise. Smart people liked smart people most. Suyu's performance did not win the all-access merchant god's favor. The sword god also laughed. If the crusade had the assistance of the feather deity, it would have been a different situation. Only the Sheng deity lowered her head, clenched her fists, and said bitterly, "That ant named San. If it weren't for his forbearance, his body and soul would have been destroyed by the look in his eyes." Hearing this, the deities looked at each other and smiled. The deities saw San's subtle look in his eyes. It would be strange if the Sheng deity wasn't angry. However, speaking of which, the Sheng deity's acting skills were really amazing. She was charming and sexy, and her performance was extraordinarily perfect. Even several deities were secretly tempted. It turned out that the Sheng deity could also be so seductive. Even they were like this, let alone San. Sheng Yuanxin's face was slightly red. She felt ashamed. It was really hard for her mother. Oh, well, entering the world of divine remains while hiding your identity is the first step. Next, killing the 2 fugitive deities is the most important thing, Suyu said. The difficulty of capturing them lies in 2 points. First, to determine their specific location. Second, how to deal with the deities who come when capturing them. The two deities must be hiding at the moment, manipulating the situation in secret. To find them, it was far from enough to rely on the intelligence system. After discovering them, it was inevitable to fight them. The war between the deities often caused strange phenomena of heaven and earth, and the entire cavern world was turned upside down. In addition, there were only 9 great cavern worlds in the world of divine remains, and they were almost all connected to each other. In just a few breaths, the deities would hear the news and come. At that time, they would be the ones who would be surrounded. Perhaps they would fail to kill the 2 traitors. Instead, the deities of the world of divine remains would use all their power to bury them here, and they would be completely wiped out. First, I have some channels. Maybe we could try to use them, the all-access merchant god said. I travel the galaxy all year round, and I will more or less come into contact with some merchants in the dark. I also have contact with the people of the world of divine remains. If we use them to investigate secretly, we may be able to find clues about the 2 traitors. It was just that the all-access merchant god himself was not confident in this method. The reason was very simple. The drawbacks were too great and too serious. Using the people of the world of divine remains meant that their existence was likely to be exposed. After all, none of those people could be completely trusted. Second, we can only lure the 2 deities out of the world of divine remains. There is no other way, the Shang deity also said. Fighting in the world of divine remains was like digging one's own grave. However, the drawbacks were equally huge. With the wisdom of the book deity, would he be easily fooled and be lured out of the world of divine remains? Probably not. The joy of successfully arriving in the world of divine remains was washed away by the 2 big problems. Perhaps if they fought desperately, they could kill the 2 traitor deities, but then it would be meaningless. Their trip was to eradicate the threat. If they were killed instead, it would be a waste of time, and the loss would outweigh the gain. At this moment, Suyu grinned. Since I have brought everyone here, of course, I have already thought of a foolproof plan. Oh, the eyes of the deities lit up one after another, and they clearly regarded Suyu as their brains. Tell us quickly, your conspiracies? Oh, your resourcefulness, we admire you very much. A female deity hurriedly corrected herself. The blue veins on Suyu's forehead throbbed. Your admiration makes it difficult for me to be happy. After a pause, Suyu said, how to find the 2 traitor deities and how to catch them. I have a detailed plan. Now I will assign it to you, and you can carry it out separately. If you do not make any mistakes, the result of this time will be far more than just catching 2 deities. After listening to Suyu's purpose, the 9 deities present all gasped and stared at Suyu with horror in their eyes. Even the all-access merchant god, who had been in the business world for a long time, exclaimed, your purpose is really unpredictable. The Shang deity was shocked. Are you sure that your purpose is not wrong? Suyu nodded solemnly. The world of divine remains has existed for too long, and it has gathered the filthy people of our major cavern worlds. When the Xing River is peaceful, they hide and do not come out. When the Xing River is in chaos, they lead the way for the demon race. With the convenience of familiarizing themselves with the cavern worlds, they bring destruction and harm to the major cavern worlds. This tumor must be removed, especially the demon race. I am afraid that if it is not removed this time, the consequences will be serious. After listening to this, the deities also felt solemn. There were many traitors from the Great Eastern Alliance in the world of divine remains. If they led the way for the demon race, the situation of the Great Eastern Alliance, which was already in a weak position, would be even more precarious. Getting rid of him was the common goal of the Eastern and Western Alliances. However, this place was too special. Unless they paid a heavy price, they could not shake the world of divine remains, let alone deal with this group of parasites. Now, Suyu had the ambition to sweep the world of divine remains. What kind of courage was this? Looking at Suyu, who was only stage 5, all creations, the deities felt ashamed. They had both come to the world of divine remains, but their vision was only of the traitors. Suyu saw the entire world of divine remains. It's just that the risk is too great, isn't it? If any of us makes a slight mistake, we will be collectively exposed, and it will be very dangerous, the all-access merchant god said. The Shang deity thought deeply. It's more than just great risk. It's simply impossible. The 9 deities of the world of divine remains each have a god-destroying crossbow. Together with their own strength, any deity is no weaker than me and the all-access merchant god. It is impossible to kill them. So you smiled. Of course, we will be wiped out when the enemy appears. Because when the enemy appears, the world of divine remains will be united against the common enemy. But what if they can't be united? The deities raised their eyebrows. What is the reason for the existence of the world of divine remains? So you answered his own question. The reason is the pressure of the major cavern worlds. Because the 9 deities are facing pressure, they have a common enemy, and the world of divine remains can be established in harmony. What do you think will happen if one of the gods defers to us? The deity who turns to us will certainly not be accommodated. He will either be expelled from the world of divine remains, or he will be killed by the other 9 deities. Once the seed of suspicion is sown, it will not stop spreading. If a deity may turn to us, will there be other hidden deities who will also turn to us? The deities who have united for countless years. Once there is suspicion, the harmonious situation will only be maintained on the surface. If there is a division, it will not be difficult to trigger civil strife in the world of divine remains. And the 9 hidden deities will secretly strike. The 9 deities, even Sheng Yuanxin, looked at Su Yu with a chill. The same method could be used by Su Yu on the Great Eastern Alliance. A trace of fear and relief emerged in their hearts at the same time. Fortunately, such a person was on their side. If he turned to the demon race, it would be terrible to think about. Who are you going to start with? Since they were looking for a deity who turned to the Great Eastern Alliance, this candidate must be reliable. The deities guessed in their hearts. Could it be the pirate deity? Asan coveted the Sheng deity. Perhaps he could become a good stepping stone for Su Yu to carry out his plan. However, Su Yu said lightly, the most terrible deity in the world of divine remains. The death deity. What? The death deity of the Netherworld faction? Are you crazy? The Sheng deity was shocked. Even the all-access merchant god's expression changed. Any deity could be persuaded to turn to the Great Eastern Alliance, except for the death deity. This person is known as the master of the 9 deities in the world of divine remains. Not only is he the most powerful, but he also controls the Netherworld faction, a killer organization that makes Xing River tremble with fear. Any deity is afraid of him. In the past, the death deity killed the most deities of the Great Eastern Alliance. Moreover, not long ago, the Netherworld faction sent 2 killers to kill Su Yu. As a result, the Netherworld faction, which never fails, failed for the first time. What is the difference between Su Yu going to see the death deity and a sheep walking into a tiger's mouth? Don't worry, everyone. Since I've decided to go, I must have my reasons. Su Yu's mouth revealed a meaningful smile. Sheng Yuanxin was anxious. Can't we find another deity? I think the pirate deity is a good choice. Let my mother seduce Asan, then take the opportunity to subdue Asan, let him become one of us, and then slowly persuade the pirate deity. Isn't it easier? Don't even think about the death deity. He is impossible. Hearing that her daughter planned to seduce Asan, the Sheng deity glared at Sheng Yuanxin. What nonsense are you talking about? However, she also advised him very solemnly, Su Yu, it's not that we don't believe you, but don't easily meet the death deity. This person is terrible, and even the Dakini is very afraid. She once said that in the Xing River, except for the demon emperor, no one is a match for the death deity. Not only is he strong, but his temperament is also extremely twisted. He is temperamental, and he kills people at every turn. He is completely unpredictable. If you intend to persuade him, I'm afraid you will be killed before you even have a chance to speak. Suyu smiled and said, "How can a person with a twisted personality get along well with the other 8 deities? I have decided a long time ago to pay a visit to the Netherworld faction. Since I am here today, as a guest, of course I have to pay a visit, and I have to do it openly." The Black Phoenix, who was standing beside Suyu, sighed. As he had said before, he would pay a visit to the Netherworld faction sooner or later. Today it had come true. Chapter 1182. If you insist on visiting, we will assist you in secret. Seeing that Suyu was determined, the gods had to compromise. Whether the plan could be carried out successfully depended on whether Suyu's trip went smoothly. No, not only can you not leave, but you have to stay in the pirate deity's cavern world. Suyu said, "As new pirates, the pirate deity will definitely invite us to join him, and before that, he will definitely thoroughly understand your identity. We can conceal our identity as the Tooba family for a while, but we can't hide it for too long, so try not to go out lest you be recognized." As the famous gods of the Great Eastern Alliance, it was not surprising that there were people in the world of divine remains who could recognize them. Then be careful, and inform us immediately if there is any mishap. The all-access merchant god handed Suyu a jade pendant, which contained his full strength and was also a communication signal. If Suyu was in trouble, he would rush over immediately. "Thank you." Suyu accepted it and disappeared from the house like a wisp of smoke with the Black Phoenix. Not far from where they were stationed, Asan was staring coldly at the inn, standing with his hands behind his back. Behind him, a peak mortal fairy who was good at the way of invisibility was half kneeling. Did they make any suspicious movements? Asan asked. The peak mortal fairy was also good at gathering intelligence. Lord Asan, after they settled in, there was not much movement, but their leader, Tooba Yun, left the inn. Left? Where is he? Who did he come into contact with? The peak mortal fairy said he did not see anyone, but went straight to the nerve transmission portal to the cavern world of the Netherworld faction. Huh? Asan looked surprised. The Netherworld faction? You mean he went straight to the Netherworld faction without hesitation? Without any stops in between? Exactly, the peak mortal fairy said. Asan thought for a while and nodded deeply. Okay, continue to monitor his every move. With that, Asan immediately disappeared from the house and appeared at the port beside the pirate deity. Pirate deity, it is just as you expected. The purpose of their trip is a little strange. After their leader, Tooba Yun, rested for a while, he went straight to the cavern world of the Netherworld sect without stopping. It can be seen that their trip to the world of divine remains is most likely to see the Netherworld sect. The pirate deity's gaze was still fixed on Xinghe, and he frowned slightly. The Netherworld school. Could it be that this down-and-out third young master is still preparing to hire killers to kill his elder brother and take back the Tooba family? If he was so childish, he wouldn't have lived to this day. He continued to investigate why they had gone to the Netherworld school. In addition, find a way to verify their identities. Coincidentally, the second young master of the Tooba family was killed, and his trusted subordinates and related clansmen fled to the land of divine offering. You guys go and invite them here to verify their identities. Yes, Asan said. He very much hoped that this group of people were imposters. Only then could he openly detain this group of people and detain that charming and sexy beauty. Ever since he had seen the Shang deity, Asan had been captivated and could not erase her figure from his mind. Schwa. After several divine-level teleportations, Suyu arrived at the cavern world of the Netherworld school half a day later. This was a world created by the death deity, but the creatures of this world had no idea where the Netherworld school was. They only knew that it was a mysterious and powerful organization. Suyu was a little surprised when he came to a village where smoke was rising from chimneys. I didn't expect the Netherworld school, whose name shakes the galaxy and inspires fear, to be in such a small village. The village was peaceful. At dusk, the cowherd boys led the old yellow ox, and the old men were living a leisurely life at the entrance of the village. Small hermits hide in the court, while big hermits hide in the city. This is the reason why the headquarters of the Netherworld school is still a mystery to this day, the Black Phoenix said. But you made an exception. Yes, so I will die soon, the Black Phoenix said. As soon as she finished speaking, a rough voice was heard. It's good that you have this awareness, so we don't have to do it ourselves. The voice drifted in the sky and soon condensed into 4 beams of light that descended around the Black Phoenix and Suyu, trapping them. 4 early-stage prospective deities. Green Dragon, White Tiger, Vermilion Bird, Black Tortoise. It's been a long time. The Black Phoenix stood in front of Suyu without batting an eyelid. It was the Black Tortoise who had spoken just now. He stared at the Black Phoenix coldly. You failed the mission and brought unprecedented shame to the Netherworld School. You should have died to atone for your sins. Instead, you turned your back on the Death Deity and became a slave of the Feather Deity. Now, you even dared to bring strangers to the headquarters of the Netherworld School and divulge the secrets of the headquarters. You deserve to be cut into pieces. The Black Phoenix's expression was placid. I'm here to see the Death Deity. Don't waste your time. Even if you didn't betray the Netherworld School, it will be difficult for you to see the Death Deity, let alone now that you are a traitor. The Death Deity won't forgive you. The Black Tortoise thought the Black Phoenix was probably begging the Death Deity for mercy. The Black Phoenix said, the Death Deity has a reason to see me. A reason? The Death Deity won't give you a second look even if you die 100 times. The Black Phoenix bellowed and was about to strike. I brought the person who made us fail the mission, the Black Phoenix said calmly. Eh? The 4 prospective deities were stunned. Their eyes locked on Suyu, who was behind the Black Phoenix. He's the feather deity of the Great Eastern Alliance? Black Phoenix, how dare you reveal the location of the headquarters of the Netherworld School to the Great Eastern Alliance? This time, not only the Black Tortoise, but the Green Dragon, the White Tiger, and the Vermilion Bird also emitted murderous intent. Just as they were about to strike, an indifferent voice floated in the void. You're not qualified to see the Death Deity. Go back and forget everything here. The you, he referred to as Suyu. Upon hearing that, the 4 prospective deities shuddered at the same time. Lord Xiaoyao. The Black Phoenix wore a respectful expression. Greetings, Lord Xiaoyao. Although this person hadn't shown himself, he gave Suyu an unusual sense of oppression that far exceeded that of an early-stage prospective deity. People of the Great Eastern Alliance, you can leave. The voice paused, but the Black Phoenix will stay. The Black Phoenix's delicate body shuddered. She would stay and accept the punishment of death. Suyu said, what if I don't let her stay? The will of the Death Deity has no room for negotiation. You can live, not because of the mercy of the Death Deity, but because the Black Phoenix died for you, understand? If you insist on taking her away, you can stay too. Suyu smiled. I don't intend to take her away, but I don't intend to keep her either. Kill them all together, Xiaoyao said indifferently. The Azure Dragon and the other 3 snorted coldly. You're asking for it. Swish. The 4 prospective deities attacked. The Black Phoenix let out a low growl and quickly appeared in front of Suyu. Without hesitation, she attacked. At the same time, she said, Master, I'm afraid we won't be able to see the Death Deity today. Please go back and leave me alone. As a deity controlled by Suyu, the Black Phoenix was willing to sacrifice everything for Suyu. As she spoke, she fought with the 4 prospective deities at the same time. Among the 10 early-stage prospective deities of the Netherworld faction, she ranked first, and no one was a match for her in a one-on-one fight. However, in a 4-on-1 situation, she quickly fell into a disadvantageous position. The Azure Dragon took advantage of the situation to attack fiercely. With a roar of the Azure Dragon, he gathered the divine energy in his body to emit sound waves. The Black Phoenix condensed a vortex of divine energy in front of her with a backhand, dissipating the sound waves. However, seizing the opportunity, the White Tiger's left palm surged with divine energy. His human-shaped palm turned into a pale tiger claw, and with a tearing force, he tore the Black Phoenix's body apart. At that moment, the Black Phoenix opened her mouth and spat out a small dagger the length of a finger. It was coated with poison, and it went straight for the White Tiger's face. The white tiger was shocked and had to retreat. However, the vermilion bird transformed into a firebird at that moment, piercing through the black phoenix's body with the momentum of light and shadow. In an instant, wisps of fiery red flames emerged from the black phoenix's body, burning her whole body. The black phoenix frowned, her face contorted in pain. All the black flames of the black phoenix gushed out of her body to resist the red flames of the vermilion bird, and only then did she manage to stabilize herself. However, at that moment, an earth-shattering force blasted towards her like a deity, shattering her whole body. It was the black tortoise. Tortoise patterns appeared on his fists, and he had a mocking look on his face. Going against the Netherworld faction, you're courting death. Poof! The black phoenix's shattered body ignited with black flames, preparing to be reborn from the ashes. The black tortoise sneered and stepped on the flames, extinguishing them. No matter how the flames continued to burn, they could not be reborn. The black tortoise looked up at Suyu. I asked you to leave, but you didn't. Do you really think the black phoenix can protect you? In front of the Netherworld faction, the black phoenix is like a grain of sand that can be destroyed at any time. It's too late for you to leave now. As he spoke, the black tortoise's palms appeared with tortoise patterns, and a palm filled with the tremendous power of heaven and earth slammed towards Suyu's chest. Suyu's lips curled into a placid smile. He grabbed a silver-white, long sword with a backhand and slashed it towards his chest. With a swish, the silver sword slashed against the black tortoise's arm, and the sound of metal clashing rang out. Then, a series of sparks flew out from the friction. A middle-grade fairy sword. It's a pity that your cultivation is too weak, and you can't unleash its power. The black tortoise did not care at all. He reached forward with his palm and slammed it towards Suyu's chest. He could kill Suyu without even getting close. Suyu said, "One sword won't do, but what about 9? Swish! All of a sudden, 9 silver swords appeared near the black tortoise at the same time. Together with the one in Suyu's hand, there were 9 swords, forming a sword formation. The 9 silver swords flew out and drew a silver trail. When the sword formation stopped operating, the black tortoise stood motionless on the spot. He had lost his life force, and even his soul had been destroyed. Suyu's face was calm, and he kicked the corpse away with the tip of his foot so that the black phoenix could be reborn in the fire. Retrieving the 9 swords and shaking off the residual blood on them, Suyu shook his head lightly. Slightly worse than I thought, at least far inferior to the black phoenix. Carelessness can kill. The Azure Dragon and the other 2 were shocked. Not only was the black tortoise careless, but they were also careless. They thought that the black tortoise could be destroyed with a finger, so they watched from the sidelines. Who knew? Roar of the green dragon. The Azure Dragon's face changed abruptly, and he roared. A green ripple penetrated through and headed straight for Suyu. Suyu was not in a hurry. His left hand condensed a longbow with the power of all creations, and his right hand placed a golden bow, an arrow on it, and he released it gently. Swish! The celestial destroying arrow wrapped in divine power stirred the wind and clouds, passed through the sound waves, and penetrated the Azure Dragon's body in a breath. Layers of golden light burned from the Azure Dragon's body, and like the Central Prefecture's king, he turned into golden dust. Chapter 1183. White Tiger Transformation. The white tiger let out a loud roar. Not only its palm, but its entire body also transformed into a giant white tiger. Its whole body emitted a faintly discernible divine energy. It fiercely slammed its palm towards Suyu. That palm was like a mountain crashing down. Suyu's expression did not change. He touched his arm, and a green light flashed. Shungu and the multicolored chaos butterfly on her shoulder appeared. The butterfly gently flapped its wings, and the giant white tiger's body suddenly exploded like porcelain. Even its celestial spirit was gone. The firebird, transformed by the vermilion bird, penetrated Suyu's body. The fiery red flames quickly burned Suyu, gradually turning him into dust. Strangely, an emerald heart was beating continuously in the dust, and the dust reformed into a complete body. Just as the vermilion bird was in shock, Suyu, who had reconstructed his body, had a long halberd that contained evil, fatal energy in his hand. It pierced through the vermilion bird's body in an instant. With a puff, the vermilion bird turned into ashes. In a short span of a breath, the 4 great prospective deities were easily killed. The vermilion bird, in particular, had died an unjust death. She had clearly killed Suyu, but the latter's body had suddenly gained an enormous vitality and restored her. That was why she had suffered a fatal blow. Suyu pulled out the evil fatal energy halberd and shook his head in disappointment. Are these the early-stage prospective deities of the Netherworld faction? Much worse than I expected. Compared to the Black Phoenix, they were far inferior in all aspects. It should be known that all the means used just now had been used on the Black Phoenix to finally subdue her. The Black Phoenix was shocked, and her expression changed drastically. Master, leave quickly. You killed the 4 great killers. The death deity will not let you off. Suyu ignored her, but looked up at the sky. How is it? Did I pass the test? Test? The Black Phoenix was stunned. A figure slowly appeared in the void. He had black hair and a blue robe, and he looked at Suyu with a faint smile. The 4 great killers were indeed a test for you. The death deity wanted to know why the Black Phoenix, who ranked first among the early-stage prospective deities, and Jin Gang, who ranked second, failed. Now we finally know the reason. You have passed the test. But the black-haired, blue-robed, middle-aged man's tone changed, and his expression was cold. But the reward for passing the test is death. Wasn't death the greatest reward of the death deity? The death deity only sees 2 kinds of people. First, the dead. The second is the person who will soon die at his hands. Suyu's expression was calm as he muttered, "Sure enough, it's true." The black-haired, blue-robed, middle-aged man was slightly startled and said indifferently, "Since you know, that's for the best." Shwa shwa. 4 people walked out from within the village. They were the dead 4 Symbol's assassins. Suyu was not surprised at all. He said, "The will of the death deity is really strange. Whoever he wants to die will die even if they don't want to, and whoever he doesn't want to die won't die even if they want to." Suyu was not surprised that the 4 great killers, who were supposed to be dead, were safe and sound. Perhaps the god of death had changed their deaths. That's right. The death deity uses death to enter the path. He can bestow death, but he can also take it away. Kid, you were careless just now. Let's do it again. This time, we will definitely take your life. Azure Dragon stared at Suyu, no longer looking down on him. Suyu slowly closed his eyes and stood still. Black Phoenix, get out of the way. Yes. When he opened his eyes again, Suyu looked at the 4 of them indifferently. Make your move. Formation of 4 symbols. The 4 prospective deities each activated their own divine paths. Behind them, the phantoms of Azure Dragon, White Tiger, Vermilion Bird, and Black Tortoise were faintly discernible. At this moment, the breath, divine energy, and will of the 4 of them had merged into one, achieving the state of 4 people as one. Lifeless formation of 4 symbols. The 4 of them cast their spells at the same time, and the 4 phantoms behind them combined, condensing into the strange shadow of the 4 odd beasts. The shadow of the beasts contained the divine energy and will of the 4 of them. With a furious roar, it slammed down. With this slap, the whole world darkened, and the wind and clouds changed dramatically. It was far beyond the power of an early-stage prospective deity, almost approaching the powerful standard of a middle-stage prospective deity. However, Suyu still wore an indifferent expression, as if nothing could shake him. With a flip of his palm, he took out a small stone the size of a palm and tossed it into the void. All of a sudden, the 5 Elements mountain released a strong power of 5 elements. The brilliance of 5 colors shrouded the shadow of the 4 odd beasts, freezing it in place and rendering it motionless, until the palm-sized 5 Elements mountain smashed onto its body. It looked like a casual smash, but the shadow of the 4 odd beasts suddenly exploded into countless pieces. In the midst of casting the spells, the faces of the 4 early-stage prospective deities changed dramatically. They spat out a mouthful of blood, and their faces were as white as paper. Immediately afterward, a 5 elements mountain that expanded 100 times fell with a rumble, suppressing the 4 killers under the mountain. To the 4 killers' horror, the power of 5 elements released by this mountain was unusually heavy, rendering them unable to turn over and unable to move. Suyu stood on the 5 elements mountain and said lightly, "I still don't intend to change my attitude. The killers of early-stage prospective deities of the Netherworld faction are nothing more than this." The black-haired, blue-robed middle-aged man stared at Suyu, and his indifferent expression was tinged with a hint of fear. The mysterious 5 elements mountain, in particular, made him feel pressured. Right at this moment, a wisp of chilling old voice blew through every corner of the sky like the wind. "Since you insist on being killed by me, let's meet." As the sigh fell, a shocking divine energy swept over. The next moment, Suyu suddenly appeared in a dark hall. In the hall, there was an incomparably huge black divine elephant. It was a pitch-black Mithraea. In front of the Mithraea, an old monk in a royal robe sat cross-legged. His left hand was spinning prayer beads, and his right hand was tapping on the wooden fish. Bursts of sandalwood fragrance, layers of Buddhist atmosphere. It was hard to imagine that this was the mansion of the death deity, the most cold-blooded and terrifying god of death in the galaxy. What was even more unbelievable was that the ruthless, bloody, and indifferent death deity turned out to be a monk. "Greetings, death deity," Suyu said. The old monk put down the wooden fish and slowly turned around, revealing a benevolent old face. The flowing Buddhist atmosphere made it hard to believe that the person in front of him was the famous death deity. "Are you surprised?" the old monk said calmly, pouring a cup of fragrant tea for Suyu. Suyu shook his head. "The Buddha and the demon are one, the Buddha's body and the demon's heart. It is still within my comprehension." The old monk showed a transcendent smile. "For many years, you're the only person who has seen me without any surprise. Well, say it. What do you want to say to me in exchange for a meeting with your death?" "I don't want to say anything, but I want to make a deal." Suyu calmly sipped the tea. "I am here as a guest." The old monk nodded lightly. "The Netherworld faction is open for business and does not reject anyone." "Say it. What kind of deal do you want to make?" Suyu smiled and finished the deal through telepathy. After listening, the old monk's indifferent expression changed, becoming solemn and solemn. "This deal is not small." The old monk sighed softly after a long time and stared at Suyu. "Young man, even I am amazed by your ideas. Should I say that you are overestimating yourself, or that you are a great strategist?" Suyu chuckled. "I'll take it as the latter." The old monk was silent. Even with the experience of the death deity, he was lost in thought. After a long time, he nodded. "The Netherworld faction accepts the deal, but do you keep your word?" "Of course, all the gods of the Great Eastern Alliance listen to my advice." Suyu took out the all-access Merchant God's Jade Pendant. The old monk took a glance and understood. He nodded slowly. "Yes, we accept the deal. After it is done, I will come to collect the chips." When he finished speaking, he waved his sleeves, and Suyu appeared outside the Netherworld faction. He was still in the same position as before, as if he had never left. At that moment, a chilling voice came from the void. "This person is listed as a 9-star distinguished guest of the Netherworld faction. He can see me directly without prior notice." Upon hearing that, the black-haired, blue-robed, middle-aged man, the 4 great killers, and the Black Phoenix were shocked at the same time. 9-star distinguished guest. The black-haired, blue-robed, middle-aged man looked Suyu up and down in disbelief. The 4 great killers also looked incredulous. The Black Phoenix was also shocked. She said in shock, "Master, the distinguished guests of the Netherworld faction are divided into 9 levels. The 9 gods of the world of divine remains are only qualified to be classified as 7-star distinguished guests. The kings of the gods of the Eastern and Western alliances are only qualified to be 8-star distinguished guests. Master, there is only one 9-star distinguished guest. The Demon Emperor. Master is the second 9-star distinguished guest of the Netherworld faction. The shock in the Black Phoenix's heart could not be calmed. She could not understand what kind of deal Suyu had reached with the Death Deity in the brief moment he met him. Not only did the Death Deity forgive all his sins, but he also did not hurt him at all. Instead, he was listed as a 9-star distinguished guest. Even if the deal between them was for the Death Deity to destroy the world of divine remains, it would never reach the standard of a 9-star distinguished guest. What kind of earth-shattering deal had they reached? Swish! With a tap of his toes, Suyu withdrew the 5 elements mountain and released the 4 great killers. With his hands behind his back, he said, "I will take the Black Phoenix with me." When he finished speaking, he led the Black Phoenix away without looking back. Staring at Suyu's back, the black-haired, blue-robed middle-aged man and the 4 great killers could not recover from the shock for a long time. The privilege of a 9-star distinguished guest was that seeing him was like seeing the Death Deity. Not to mention taking the Black Phoenix away, they had to obey his orders unless the Death Deity did not allow it. Not far away, a black shadow that had been silently watching Suyu disappeared into the void. Half a day later, in the pirate deity's cavern world, Suyu did not meet up with the deities immediately. Instead, he walked and observed in the busiest center of the world, the pirate market. This was indeed the center of the black market of the Xing River. Any taboo item, anything that belonged to the deity's family, was available. Even people were being sold. Qin Feiqian and Sheng Yuanxin should fetch a good price, Suyu said playfully. Out of the blue, Suyu caught a glimpse of a familiar figure. Ah-san. He was leading a group of pirates, escorting a group of men and women dressed in rags. Young and old, all of them looked very disheveled and miserable. Ah-san? Why is he escorting those people? Suyu was suspicious. Black Phoenix, find out why Ah-san is capturing them. Logically speaking, Ah-san should be guarding the port with the pirate deity, still waiting for the deities of the Great Eastern Alliance to come. Why would he arrange for Ah-san to come alone? This was the center of the black market, and there was no shortage of merchants selling information. Soon, the Black Phoenix returned. The Black Phoenix looked a little anxious. "Master, the situation is not good. Ah-san is escorting the people of the Tooba family who are exiled here. They were implicated by the second son and fled here. They were taken away by Ah-san, and the pirate deity must have instructed them to confront us about Tooba Yun's identity." Hearing that, Suyu raised his brows. What a coincidence! There were people of the Tooba family in the world of divine remains. The situation was troublesome. Chapter 1184. There's no other way but to take those people away first. The sudden accident made Suyu feel a little troubled. Fortunately, he had discovered it early, and there was still a way to remedy it. The Black Phoenix was born in the path of concealment and was best at assassination and stealth. No one was more suitable than her to kill, but she was powerless to save people. "I'll go with you." A moment later, Suyu and the Black Phoenix caught up with the team. Because there were 9 people being escorted, it was inconvenient to use the transportation portal, so Suyu caught up with them. "You deal with Ah-san. I'll take care of the rest." "Don't get recognized," Suyu said. The Black Phoenix nodded. The muscles on her face wriggled, and she immediately changed into another appearance. Her black clothes were changed into pink, and she looked like a completely different person. The Black Phoenix turned into a dark phantom and quickly caught up with Ah-san. As a prospective deity, the Black Phoenix's path of concealment was mysterious, but how could it hide from Ah-san's senses? "Who's there?" Ah-san growled, and a bright light shot behind him. The rest of the escorts could not be seen at all. Only Ah-san could break through the Black Phoenix's path of concealment and clearly see a person in a pink dress standing behind her. The pink-dressed woman said nothing. Her eyes were cold, and she flashed forward with a poisoned dagger in her hand. Her technique was sharp, ruthless, and cunning. Ah-san's heart skipped a beat, and he did not dare to be careless. He shouted, "Hand of Ah-san." Suddenly, a shocking turbid gas came from this hand, and the pink-dressed woman was forced back slightly. Rumor had it that Ah-san came from a mysterious cavern world. The creatures of that cavern world liked to wipe their buttocks with their left hand, and over time, they stunk. Asan was one of them. After training, he guided it to the path of divinity and became a prospective deity. Swoosh! Although the pink-dressed woman retreated, a poisonous needle shot out from her palm, penetrating the poisonous gas and piercing Asan's palm. The strong poison alarmed Asan, and he immediately used his divine power to suppress and neutralize it. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the Black Phoenix closed in again like a ghost. Asan was secretly anxious. This woman's cultivation was the same as his, but she was very difficult to deal with. Even a pirate like Asan, who had been on the battlefield for a long time, found it particularly tricky and had to deal with her with all his strength. However, Asan did not overlook the woman's motive. He said cautiously, "Immediately escort them to the nearby teleportation portal and ask for the protection of the local formation guardian. Go." With the three-peak mortal fairies leading the way, they quickly led the Tooba family to the teleportation portal. After a short while, he left Asan's line of sight. It was also at this moment that Suyu attacked. The power of the 5 elements fell from the sky, and the strong pressure froze the three-peak mortal fairies and the rest of the mortal fairies, making them unable to move. Immediately after, a strong gust of wind blew over. Before they could even see the attackers' faces clearly, the Tooba family's clansmen were swept away. The Black Phoenix received Suyu's order in her mind. She stabbed Asan with her dagger, turned into smoke, and disappeared. The Hindustani didn't dare to chase after them. He quickly caught up to the group, but all he saw was a mess. In a desolate and uninhabited corner, Suyu looked at the group of people who were curled up together. Their clothes were tattered, and they were suffering from all kinds of torture and suffering. If Hindustani had not personally escorted them, it would be hard to believe that they were once a deity's family. "Are you members of the Tooba family?" Suyu asked. Their cultivation was generally not high, and the highest was only a third-realm mortal fairy. He was a very delicate young boy. His qualifications were unusually good. Upon hearing that, the young boy stood up and was about to speak, but the dying old man next to him pulled him and shook his head, gesturing for him not to speak. The young boy was about 15 years old. Although he was young, he was very smart. He said, "If you wanted to kill us, you wouldn't have saved us. Yes, we are members of the Tooba family. Thank you for saving us." It was not tiring to talk to smart people. Suyu smiled. "Do you know why Asan captured you?" The young boy said, "I do. Along the way, I heard the divine servants of the pirate deity talking about a group of people who pretended to be my third uncle, and they needed us to identify them." Upon hearing that, Suyu was a little surprised. "Oh, you are a descendant of the second son?" "My name is Tooba Chingshan, and I am one of the children of the second heir of the Tooba family, Tooba Luyan. The rest of my siblings were killed by my eldest uncle during the escape. I was the only one who escaped with the protection of the loyal members of my family." Suyu said, "I see. It seems like your life in the world of divine remains isn't going well." Despite his young age, Tooba Chingshan had a maturity that was not commensurate with his age. "We live under someone else's roof and have no background. Naturally, we are a fat piece of meat in the eyes of everyone in the land of divine remains. When we first came here, there were 100 of us, but after 3 years, we are the only ones left. The rest of our clansmen have either been sold or died a violent death. Then, there are the young female clansmen. All of them have been kidnapped, and their whereabouts are unknown." It was quite tragic. Of course, it had nothing to do with Suyu. The Black Phoenix's eyes glinted coldly. She said, "Master, should we kill them?" Their existence was a hidden danger to Suyu and the other deities. Tooba Chingyun bit his lip. He had already guessed that the 2 people in front of him were probably the people who pretended to be his second uncle. For safety's sake, their existence was a threat. Therefore, their fate would be to kill them all. "Benefactor, we are willing to follow you." Suyu couldn't help but laugh. What a clever kid. Was he trying to use this to survive? Glancing at the rest of the family, they were all frightened and pleading. No one wanted to die, even if they were miserable and down in the world. "Haha, that's not necessary," Suyu said with a faint smile. Tuoba Qingyun's heart sank, his eyes filled with despair. Was he really going to kill them all? Patter. There was a soft sound. So you had thrown a space ring in front of him. You have suffered undeserved disasters because of me. It is not my intention to kill you, but I cannot allow you to continue to show your faces in public and be discovered by the pirate deity. These resources are enough for you to use for a long time. Before the resources are exhausted, find an uninhabited secret room to rest quietly, Suyu said. He was not a bloodthirsty person, so why would he care about the innocent? Suyu saw his own shadow in Tuoba Qingshan. When the Duke of Xinyu was destroyed, he, as the Duke's son-in-law, was also in dire straits. In addition, Tuoba Qingshan was smart and had a good impression of him, so he gifted him some resources. Upon hearing that, Tuoba Qingshan couldn't believe it. He had thought he was going to be killed, but in the end, he received a large number of resources and only asked them to hide. Tuoba Qingshan was almost touched by the opposite outcome. It was not that there were no good people, but in a place like the world of divine remains, good people had long become corpses by the roadside. Meeting Suyu, Tuoba Qingshan was truly grateful. Waving his sleeves, Suyu floated out. Before he left, he said, "Remember, don't show your face in public." Yes. Tuoba Qingshan straightened his clothes and bowed. He had really met his benefactor today. In the distance, the Black Phoenix sighed faintly. "Master, you are too kind. Even though these people of the Tuoba family used to be kind, 3 years of living in the world of divine remains is enough to change some of them. The world of divine remains is a place that does not allow kindness to exist." Suyu said indifferently, "I know." "What? You know?" The Black Phoenix was stunned. She could not understand Suyu's reason for doing so. How could he allow the hidden dangers to threaten the safety of himself and the deities? However, after spending some time together, the Black Phoenix knew that Suyu must have a reason for his actions. Even if he was showing mercy today, he must have considered it. Otherwise, he would not have dealt with the people of the Tuoba family so recklessly. In an abandoned secret chamber, the people of the Tuoba family had found a new place to settle down. It was secluded, safe, and a suitable hiding place. "Young master, we have met a benefactor today," Tuoba Qingyun's old servant exclaimed. "In the 3 years I've been in the world of divine remains, this is the first time I've met such a kind person." "Yes, we are so lucky today." "Yes, he saved our lives, let us go, and even gave us a large amount of resources." Many people were grateful to Suyu. Although it was just a small favor, it was like a dazzling match in the darkness. "Young master, I have a suggestion." A thin all-creation strong man with several scars on his face, who had obviously suffered a great deal, said thoughtfully. Tuoba Qingyun looked at him with trust in his eyes. "Tuoba Jing, we are all on the same side here. Just say what you want to say." Tuoba Jing looked around at his people and said in a low voice, "Have you ever thought about whether our lives will change after these resources are used up?" "No, they would still return to a down-and-out, vagabond life that was coveted everywhere, and they would never see hope again. Now that the opportunity to make a meteoric rise is right in front of us, why should we let it go?" Tuoba Jing said. "What?" All the people understood Tuoba Jing's meaning in an instant. "The pirate deity wants us to identify the fake Tuoba people. Why don't we take the initiative to help him identify them? I heard that the pirate deity is fair in rewards and punishments. We should be rewarded for our contributions, so we asked him to give us a divine bone ship and leave the world of divine remains for the faraway Great Eastern Alliance. It's better than continuing to perish in the world of divine remains." They had had enough of the miserable life in the world of divine remains, and they regretted coming here in the past. If they went to the Great Eastern Alliance, their situation might improve a lot. At least they wouldn't be eaten up like they were now, with not even their bones left. Many people were tempted, but Tuoba Qingyun's face was cold. "We have been here for 3 years, and everyone wants to eat us up. We dare not speak up against them. Today, someone has shown us kindness, but we try to eat him up. What's the difference between us and the people of the world of divine remains that we hate? Although we are down and out, we still have the blood of the Tuoba family flowing in our veins." I believe that the Toba deities of the past generations don't want to see their descendants degenerate to such an extent. Toba Qinyun stared at Toba Jing coldly. Don't talk about this anymore. Otherwise, don't blame me for being ruthless. Toba Jing stopped talking, but his heart was full of hatred. Your cultivation is the highest, and you have the highest status among us. When have you ever suffered a great disaster? Of course, you can say such things in a dignified manner. He didn't say it, but his eyes flashed with determination. Chapter 1185. The next morning. Young master, things are not looking good. Tuoba Jing and a few people said they were patrolling outside last night and have yet to return. The old servant woke Tuoba Qinyun from his meditation. Hearing this, Tuoba Qinyun was furious. Damn it, our benefactor is in danger. Young master, then we... Of course we inform our benefactor. If Tuoba Jing succeeds, not only will our benefactor be in trouble, but our hidden people will also be destroyed by the pirate god. At the port, the pirate god listened quietly to Ah San's report. After a while, the pirate god twisted his beard and sneered. The people were kidnapped, and the woman who did it looked like a killer from the Netherworld faction. Ha! There's indeed something wrong with their identities. If I'm not wrong, the woman who did it was the woman in black who claimed to be with Toba Yun. She does have some traces of a killer on her. Then should I lead some people to capture them all? The sexy figure of the Shang deity flashed across Ah San's mind, and his heart was burning. The pirate god shook his head. If we swallow them without evidence, who would dare to join us in the future if word got out that I, the pirate god, made up a crime to swallow the forces that joined us? And this is also not allowed by our alliance of the Nine Gods. But since they are suspicious, then put them under house arrest and spread their portraits throughout the pirate deity's cavern world. Those who recognize them will be rewarded handsomely. Ah San nodded. Yes. Just as he was about to leave in disappointment and annoyance, a divine servant quickly came to report. After hearing this, the pirate god smiled. Interesting. Let them come. Before long, Tuoba Jing and 3 young Tuoba people were brought to the pirate god by the divine servant. Are you willing to identify them as Tuoba Yin? The pirate god asked. Tuoba Jing said, yes. We are willing to share the burden of the pirate god. Good. If you make a contribution, I will naturally reward you, the pirate god said. There were several strong prospective deities in Su Yu's group. Even the pirate god had to take them seriously. Tuoba Jing was overjoyed. Next, as long as they identified the young man who rescued them yesterday, they might be able to leave the world of divine remains. The pirate god said, Ah San, summon all of Tuoba Yun's people. I have questions to ask them. Ah San was overjoyed. Yes. So you also returned to the inn not long ago. He met with the 9 deities and told them about his encounter with the death deity. Of course, he hid the details of his deal with the god of death and the fact that he was a 9-star guest. I really didn't expect that you would come back safely. Sheng Yuanxin looked at Su Yu and clicked her tongue in wonder. Su Yu replied, it wasn't safe, as there was a small incident along the way. On the way, I found Ah San escorting the Tuoba family's people, so I saved them and let them go. What? All the deities were shocked. They had a bad feeling when they heard about the Tuoba family, and now that Su Yu had released them, they felt even worse. The deities were still able to keep their composure. With Su Yu's shrewdness, there must be a reason for his actions. But Sheng Yuanxin raised her eyebrows and said in shock, oh my god, how could you let him go? Wasn't he digging his own grave? Do you really believe that they'll keep their mouths shut? Su Yu calmly shook his head. Of course I don't believe you. If there were only 2 or 3 of them, I might have believed that they would keep their promise. But there are always 1 or 2 of them who think differently, and some of them will definitely expose us to the pirate deity. If you knew, then why? Sheng Yuanxin was confused. What was Su Yu trying to do? Su Yu said meaningfully, their exposure was my deliberate indulgence. Otherwise, it would take a lot of effort to see the pirate deity again. Thump. Soon, Ah San arrived with a group of mortal fairies, just as Su Yu had expected. He put on a fake smile. Everyone, the pirate deity invites you in. The deities looked at each other. not knowing what Suyu was up to. Once his identity was exposed, the pirate deity's 9 god-destroying crossbows would be no laughing matter. The deities calmed themselves and followed Suyu to the port to see the pirate deity again. The pirate deity stood with one hand behind his back. Tuoba Jing and the others stood side by side behind him, looking down at Suyu and the others indifferently. Pirate deity, why did you summon us here? Suyu glanced at Tuoba Jing and said lightly. The pirate deity sneered and stroked his beard. If you're really the 3rd son of the Tuoba family, Tobyun, how could you not recognize the people behind me? Suyu glanced at them and said, just a few down-and-out members of the Tuoba family? It's normal for them to bite me in order to gain some benefits. Stop pretending. Tuoba Jing smiled contemptuously. When you kidnapped us yesterday, you should have killed us. You can only blame your stupidity for letting us go. The pirate deity's eyes narrowed. Oh, did you kidnap them last night? Do you have something to say? Suyu was about to speak when another divine servant hurried over. The pirate deity was surprised. After a moment of silence, he said, let them in. Before long, the divine servant let a group of people in. There were about 20 of them, with Tuoba Qingshan at the front. When they came before the pirate deity, Tuoba Qingshan first bowed to the pirate deity, then led his people to kneel before Suyu. 3rd uncle. Except for Suyu, who reacted quickly and understood Tuoba Qingshan's intention. The others were shocked. Tuoba Jing yelled, Tuoba Qingyun, what nonsense are you talking about? How could he be the 3rd son of the Tuoba family? Tuoba Qingyun did not look at him, but bowed to the pirate deity. Pirate deity, a few scum have appeared in my family, trying to betray 3rd uncle to win the pirate deity's favor. I hope the pirate deity will seek justice for the Tuoba family. Asan's eyes were wide open. How could another group of people from the Tuoba family appear now that things had developed to this stage? The strangest thing was that they acknowledged Suyu's identity as Tuoba Yun. Do you dare to take responsibility for what you said? Asan scolded. He was more anxious than anyone else that the beauty he had captured was about to escape. Tuoba Qingyun was neither servile nor overbearing. May I ask Lord Asan, do you believe the few ordinary members of the family, or do you believe me, the son of the 2nd son? Asan was inwardly furious. Anyone with a discerning eye could see that there was definitely something wrong with Suyu and his people. Then how are you going to explain that they kidnapped you last night? Asan threatened. Deceiving a deity is a crime deserving of death. You'd better think carefully before you speak. Tuoba Qingyun said without hesitation, kidnapped us? Is there such a thing? I hope Lord Sam will look into it. Asan was furious, but he did not dare to act arbitrarily. He looked at the pirate deity. The pirate deity chuckled, his eyes full of coldness. Interesting. To think there is someone who recognizes a thief as an uncle. This is the first time I've encountered such a thing in my travels. As he spoke, the pirate deity shot out a whiff of divine energy from his fingertip and penetrated Tuoba Yun's mind, searching his memory. The faces of the Tuoba people behind him were ashen. Sure enough, lying before a deity was too rash. However, if they had not come and watched Tuoba Jing and the others succeed, what awaited them would still have been death. That was why Tuoba Qingyun had led them here to fight. Unfortunately, they had failed on the verge of success. The pirate deity closed his eyes slightly and easily obtained Tuoba Qingyun's memory. When he opened his eyes again, the coldness was even more intense. How dare you deceive a deity like me? Ha ha, how refreshing. His words were filled with anger and laughter. A mere ant had deceived a deity. How audacious. Sweeping his gaze across, his eyes fell on Suyu. Impersonating Tuoba Yun. No matter who you are, I have to interrogate you. Asan, take them all away. Torture them first before extorting a confession. Deceiving me. You must suffer a little first. Suyu looked calm and unhurried. He was about to speak when another black shadow came in and whispered something into Asan's ear. Upon hearing that, Asan's delighted expression was immediately replaced by horror. He looked at Suyu with fear in his eyes. Shadow Guard, It's information. What happened? The pirate deity asked dispassionately. Asen hurriedly transmitted his voice. Lord Pirate Deity, it's about Tuoba Yun. No, it's news about this impersonator of Tuoba Yun. What news? The pirate deity kept his cool. Asan's unusual expression made him feel that something was amiss. Asan's voice trembled a little. He has successfully met the death deity. The pirate deity's pupils shrank slightly. He could not help but size up Suyu again. As a deity of the world of divine remains, even the pirate deity rarely met the death deity. This legendary king of killers had terrifying abilities that could shake the galaxy. He was not only the greatest reliance of the world of divine remains, but also a shadow that shrouded the hearts of all the deities. Back then, he had single-handedly killed 4 deities of the Great Eastern Alliance. The figure of him had long been imprinted in his heart. It was extraordinary that Suyu could meet the death deity. The pirate deity's gaze on Suyu was no longer fierce, but gentle. Before figuring out their relationship, it would be better not to deal with them for the time being. House arrest would suffice. Just as the pirate deity was about to speak, Asan continued. The death deity has issued an edict identifying this person as a distinguished client. Distinguished client? The pirate deity's eyes were filled with dread. He did not have the guts to put a distinguished guest of the Netherworld faction under house arrest. The pirate deity had also lost interest in pursuing their identities. Few who came to the world of divine remains to meet the Netherworld faction would use their real identities. This group of people before him had probably borrowed Tuoba Yun's identity for this reason. He felt relieved. The pirate deity would not do anything to them. He even had plans to let them go. But he still asked, "What's the distinguished guest star?" The distinguished guest, personally designated by the death deity, should be at least 5 stars, right? This was also the reason why the pirate deity was unwilling to pursue the matter with Suyu and the others. It was rare for the death deity to personally designate a distinguished guest. Every time it was a big shot. Asan's voice trembled violently. 9 stars. Crack. The pirate deity was stunned. He could not control the divine energy in his body. It poured out and injured Asan, who was close at hand. The pirate deity stood up abruptly, his face full of shock. 9 stars? Are you sure the shadow guards did not send the wrong message? Asan said bitterly, I doubt it too. How could it be 9 stars? To be designated a 9-star distinguished guest by the death deity, apart from the one from the demonic dimension, who else would be qualified? The pirate deity's eyes flickered violently. Looking at Suyu's youthful figure, he felt an inexplicable sense of oppression. Chapter 1186. Asan did not even dare to breathe. He immediately went to the Netherworld faction to confirm it with his seriously injured body. In fact, they all knew that there was no mistake at all. It was just that this matter was too shocking. If they had not confirmed it again and again, it would have been hard for them to believe it. The gods of the Great Eastern Alliance looked at each other. The pirate deity and Asan were both communicating telepathically. They did not know what the two were talking about. They only saw the pirate deity's eyes change again and again, and finally, there was a hint of fear. The pirate deity secretly took a deep breath and hid the strange look on his face. He glanced at Tuoba Qingyun and Tuoba Jing's group with a fierce look in his eyes. Tuoba Jing's heart skipped a beat. He stepped forward and suggested, Pirate deity, they dare to deceive a god. They deserve to die. Please don't pardon their sins. You are right. Deceiving a god is a crime deserving of death. They cannot be pardoned. I am very pleased that you can think this way. The pirate deity smiled lightly. Tuoba Jing looked pleased. He looked at Tuoba Qingyun and the others coldly and thought, don't blame me for being cruel. If you don't die, how can we leave the world of divine remains? However, the next moment, Tuoba Jing's face stiffened. The pirate deity said coldly, in that case, the 4 of you get ready to be punished. With a flick of his sleeve, a wave of divine energy suppressed Tuoba Jing and the other 3 young Tuoba clansmen who had betrayed him to the ground. The sudden scene shocked Tuoba Jing, Tuoba Qingyun, and even the gods of the Great Eastern Alliance. Shouldn't it be Tuoba Qingyun and the people of the Great Eastern Alliance who deceived him? The pirate deity had even ordered them to be put under house arrest. Pirate deity? Haven't you already searched our souls and determined that Tuoba Qingyun and the others are the sinners who deceived you? Why punish us? Tuoba Jing was shocked. The pirate deity's face was cold. Humph. What I found in the soul search is that Tuoba Qing Shan did not lie. It was you who deceived me. You slandered Tuoba Yun for your own selfish reasons. What? Tuoba Jing said anxiously. We did not deceive you. He is really not Tuoba Yun. Before he could continue, the pirate deity had already used his divine power to turn the four of them into dust. Then, the pirate deity walked up to Su Yu, his fierce face squeezing out a kind smile. I have wronged Tuoba. I was almost deceived by a villain and wronged Tuoba. The Great Eastern Alliance, Tuoba Qingyun, and the others did not know what had happened that made the pirate deity seem like a different person. After the crisis was resolved, Su Yu and the others left one after another. Mr. Tuoba, please stay. I would like to talk to you alone. The pirate deity called out to Su Yu and the others. Su Yu's lips curled into a smile. All right. When only the pirate deity and Su Yu were left, the pirate deity said, May I ask who you are? A 9-star distinguished guest of the Netherworld School must be someone of high status, right? Su Yu said with a faint smile, What if I tell you that we are the deities of the Great Eastern Alliance that the pirate deity wants to ambush? Shua, the pirate deity's expression changed, and his pupils shrank. Divine power naturally emerged on the surface of his body. He said cautiously and seriously, Is the young master joking? What do you think? Su Yu smiled calmly. The pirate deity was shocked. In that case, among those who were hiding as prospective gods, it was very likely that there were gods from the Great Eastern Alliance. They had actually come to the pirate deity's cavern world. When he recalled how he had faced all the gods alone, he could not help but break out in a cold sweat. Why didn't you attack just now? The pirate deity's face was very ugly. If they had attacked just now, he would not have lasted a moment and would have been killed. Su Yu said, Because we were giving you a chance. What chance? To join the Great Eastern Alliance. Impossible. The pirate deity refused flatly. Why is it impossible? The death deity is cooperating with the Great Eastern Alliance. How long do you think the land of the gods can hold on? Boom. The pirate deity was shocked. The divine power in his body was once again out of control, causing the Xing River to surge. He could not believe it, but he had to believe it. Otherwise, where did the 9-star distinguished guest come from? The death deity must have been plotting something earth-shattering to make such a high-profile, distinguished guest. Did the death deity promise you? Yes. He promised me that he would help the Great Eastern Alliance get rid of the other 8 deities and wipe out the land of the gods. The bargaining chip we paid was that the death deity would join the Great Eastern Alliance and obtain a legal identity. The pirate deity was shocked again. The deities who walked in the dark gathered here precisely because they were rejected by the major cavern worlds. They had no choice but to rely on the influence of the demons to balance in the center. The 9 deities knew very well that once a war broke out between the demons and the Xing River cavern worlds, this balance would be lost if either side won the final victory. If the demons won, as gods, they would be a great tonic in the eyes of the demons. The greedy demons would never be merciful. If the cavern worlds won, as traitors, they would be a thorn in the eyes of the major cavern worlds and would be eliminated. Therefore, if they could find the approval of the Eastern and Western Great Eastern Alliance before the war, they would be pardoned for their past sins and join one of them. And they could clearly feel that the demon dimension was ready to move, and the war in the Xing River was approaching. Therefore, at this moment, knowing that the death deity had joined the Great Eastern Alliance, the pirate deity did not feel it was unbelievable. Instead, it was reasonable. If he were the death deity, if the Great Eastern Alliance summoned him, he might consider it. What if I don't agree to your summons today? What if I kill you here? The pirate deity's eyes narrowed, shooting out rays of light and even hidden murderous intent. So you look calm. It's very simple. The death deity will carry your head to the Great Eastern Alliance as a proof of allegiance. Hiss. The pirate deity took a deep breath. He could either pretend to be deaf and dumb to the existence of Su Yu and the others, or accept the summons. You don't have much time to think about it, because the death deity will soon take action and bring the head of those who oppose the summons to the Great Eastern Alliance to surrender. While you are considering, I will contact the other 7 deities. If your reply is too late, I can't guarantee that they won't take your head as a token of surrender, Su Yu said with a relaxed smile. Then, he turned around and left. The pirate deity stood rooted to the ground, his mind spinning. At this moment, Su Yu said, "You are the first person to be summoned besides the death deity. If you're willing to set an example, I believe it will be easier to gain the approval of the Great Eastern Alliance, and vice versa." Think about it. Hearing this, the pirate deity's hesitant heart was completely settled. "Okay, I agree to your summons, but the premise is that I must confirm whether you have really summoned the death deity. Of course, you can go ahead and ask." Back at the inn, Su Yu was greeted with questions from several deities. Feather deity, what the hell did you do? Why did the pirate deity's demeanor change so much? He actually helped us cover up our fake identities. Yes, just now, we have all secretly sent messages to each other, ready to seize the ship and leave the world of divine remains. Even the all-access merchant god and the Shang deity couldn't help but stare at Su Yu. How did Su Yu do it? Su Yu smiled indifferently. Please rest assured, everyone. The pirate deity is afraid of the death deity, so he did not dare to do anything to us. Instead, he helped us hide our identities. Is that so? The deities were skeptical. The all-access merchant god looked at Su Yu deeply. His intuition told him that Su Yu must be hiding something about the death deity. But if he didn't say it, the all-access merchant god couldn't force him. For the time being, we have stabilized our position. The next problem is still unsolved. How do we find the hiding place of the book deity and the Rakshasa deity? The all-access merchant god said. The Shang deity looked at Su Yu. The urgent task is to find those 2 people as soon as possible. As for your plan to destroy the world of divine remains, we need to get rid of them first. In this regard, Su Yu had no objections. Yes, destroying the world of divine remains isn't something that can be accomplished overnight, and it can't be accomplished overnight. Indeed, we should get rid of the 2 threats first. Hence, Qin Feichen has come in handy. The deities' eyes lit up. They had doubts about Su Yu bringing Qin Feichen here. Now it seemed that Su Yu was prepared. You want to lure the snake out of its hole? I'm afraid the book deity won't be fooled. The Shang deity interrupted Su Yu mercilessly. You said yourself that the book deity is extremely intelligent. This little trick can't be hidden from him. Instead, it will expose our existence. Su Yu smiled calmly. Lure the snake out of its hole? Oh, that depends on who it is. What if the deities of the world of divine remains help us lure him out? Swish! Suddenly, the eyes of the 9 deities penetrated Su Yu. What did you just say? The all-access merchant god stared at Su Yu in disbelief. Could it be that the deal Su Yu reached with the death deity was to help them find the book deity and the Rakshasa deity? Su Yu smiled calmly. Merchant god, you heard me right. There will be a deity of the world of divine remains who will help us with all his might. Who? The deities looked over in unison. The pirate deity. Impossible. Even if he is wary of the relationship between us and the death deity, he will never help us kill the 2 deities. This is a betrayal of the world of divine remains. Just wait and see. 7 days later, an uninvited guest suddenly arrived at the inn. Mr. Tooba, I would like to see you. The pirate deity stood outside the secret room. In the secret room, the deities who had been waiting quietly for 7 days were all vigilant. They looked at each other and prepared themselves for conflict. Please come in, Su Yu said. The pirate deity entered the secret room and glanced around. He found that there were 10 people present, but Su Yu was sitting in the last seat. The leader was a one-eyed middle-aged man, followed by a sexy woman. The pirate deity understood. They must be the deities responsible for the enlistment. Otherwise, Su Yu would not be sitting at the end. However, they did not show the cultivation of the deities and the pirate deity pretended not to know. He stared at Su Yu and said, I have already noticed. Is this a suitable place to talk? Su Yu smiled and looked at the deities who were secretly vigilant. He said, we are all on the same side. Feel free to speak. All right. The pirate deity smiled like a spring breeze. I have agreed to the enlistment of the Great Eastern Alliance and am willing to assist the lords in clearing the world of divine remains. He had visited the death deity in person for 7 days. Unexpectedly, the death deity, who was rarely seen, was very willing to meet him. When he asked about the enlistment, the death deity said, I will fully support him. With these words, the pirate deity was completely at ease. Following the most powerful deity in the world of divine remains would not go wrong. The all-access merchant god and the others, who were secretly vigilant and did not hesitate to fight, were all shocked when they heard this.